What's up, fam? Got some big news to share that unfortunately is not so good, so I'm gonna jump right into it. You're gonna watch this video and you're gonna cry. At least we can laugh at your eyes as you cry, looking in the corner like a little girl in the fetal position.
I don't follow him. What's he doing now? What's
I don't
up
know.
with that
Look,
guy?
It's a
Never
marketing
met
thing
him.
for my Red Morning podcast where it's like all these people are talking mad shit about us. And so I thought, why don't I just make it like an infomercial from the early 90s? And it's like, it's taken off. I got one of him. I got one of Tate making fun of me for not being 6 feet tall and not a real man. I got some chick calling us paranoid. Another fat broad saying we're a cult. Another one about chicks saying guys with podcasts are red flag. The guys just love them. Anyways, Red Morning was on at 9, but this, welcome to Rule Zero. We got Clary and we got John. Rolo, I think, is coming in a bit later.
Sure, he'll be here in 3 hours. Sure.
Yeah. But that's fine. We'll catch his monologues. You guys know the deal. Hypergamy, am I right, fellas?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Topic for this one. Super excited. Bromances and homances. It took me an hour to wordsmith that proper term. What the hell is he talking about? And what does this have to do with sexual strategy? It turns out that men and women are soft R artistic lately. Women have treated TikTok like that's the place to bitch and moan that I used to have friends to do, but now I have no friends, so I got to bitch and moan on TikTok for likes and follows. Guys are like, I don't have any buds to talk about guy things anymore, and so now I have no knowledge of the outside world, and I have to follow Ribby the Frog or some other goofy internet
Ribby the
personality
Frog.
to teach me about whammon, you know, because whammon ain't shit. Am I right?
Of course, you are right.
Absolutely. So here's the thing. You guys, between the three of us, I think we have about, I don't know, 70, 80, 100 years, many years of experience, many groups of men that we've been with, many co-ed groups, many feminine groups, whatever. And we're here to let you guys know about what you're missing. So here's the lead in, and you guys take the lead on this one. Growing up, when you were raised, when you had elementary school, when you had high school, how many male teachers versus female teachers did you have growing up?
Oh God, none. It wasn't.
I didn't know you were homeschooled. I'm sorry.
No, I wasn't homeschooled. I went to a private school, and then, but yeah, until the 7th grade, I didn't have a male teacher.
Yeah,
Jeez.
there was no male teachers in grade school. I had a number of great male teachers in high school and college, and it was one of the reasons why I chose the. I got my degree in education, PE and history. And the reason I picked those two was like, I went to college to wrestle. Like, that's why I went to college. Not because I couldn't wait to get a job and whatever. I wanted to wrestle. So I had to do school stuff too. So I picked the subjects I hated the least.
Ooh.
I was like, well, I can tolerate, this. I had good teachers in those classes. I had awesome history teachers. Like they taught the dirt, guys fist fighting on the house floor and flipping tables over, and the fact that they had to start bolting down the tables because the politicians would flip the tables over and throw things at each other. So like everything got bolted down at a certain point. I thought,
Dude, my teachers just smoked weed. I feel like I've missed out.
I had this one professor. It was a World War I or II, whatever class.
Probably World War II. World War I, he would have been a little frail.
Well, no. He was just teaching the history of it. It was a history of that. So he was like, while he would walk around on the desktops in this big, huge auditorium class thing, it was awesome. Like he was great. He was firing, and it was like fun to go to their class.
But yeah, you see, like male teachers, there's something about it that just hits different. I guess I'm different than you guys. So in elementary school, my principal, I remember my first experience with him was in grade 2 when he dragged a kid by the scruff of his neck out of a classroom because he wouldn't leave. He had like a big participation shirt. And if you guys don't know what that is, that's this Canadian CBC thing they used to have, like telling people to be healthy and lose weight. Clary, steal the participation stuff with Hal Johnson and Joanne McLennan. It will be great for your channel when you're telling people to stop being so fat and lazy. I swear to God. And it's got the great 80s vibe to it with like the rainbow stuff.
Yeah, where do I find that? Is it even for sale? Like, do I got to go to an antique store to find that stuff?
Participation stuff? I have no idea where to find it.
Hang on.
Participation, yeah. And my grade 2 teacher, again, Mr. Galvin, he's since passed on. He was a Navy veteran from like the 60s. Absolutely brutal. Like all this male stuff. So here's the lead in for this stuff. So you guys seen it yourself. John, you had that great teacher jumping on tables, really passionate about history. It just hits
I had
different.
A few of them. I had at least 5 probably great male teachers that were really.
But you notice how it
inspirational.
hit different than the female teachers?
Mm-hmm. They were telling us stuff we could use. Yes.
Yeah. No, well, not just stuff you could use, but how they taught. They taught in a way that resonated with you. With a girl, my experience with the female teachers, it was always about you behaving. It was a control thing. Like, you need to act right so you can be the good student.
Do what I say.
Yeah, as opposed to guys where it's like, here's the rules, follow them or it's your ass. And so as long as you learn certain normalized behaviors, like how to action like a functional person in the classroom and not a fucking caveman, everything was great.
Even getting in trouble, it was the teacher's reaction. I remember I got in trouble in high school. I got a Saturday school because somebody died, and I said, yeah, he died because he got a dildo stuck in his ass.
Did he?
No. And like the whole class erupted in laughter. Laughed his ass off. And then he's like, he goes, John, that was hilarious, but you got it Saturday. Like, you just can't say that. You can't say that in class. So I was like, yeah, okay. You know, I mean, like, but it wasn't like, if it was a female teacher, it would have been like, oh, and then like emotional and then all this other bullshit. But he was like, he laughed. He said it was hilarious, but like, you can't say that at school. Punishment. It was very reasonable. Like, he's like, well, these are the rules, and you broke them. That's just it. And that was the end of it.
And dude, I think people misunderstand how like profound a statement that was. It's literally, because here's the difference. That teacher telling him, dude, that was hilarious, you're still punished for it. That doesn't attack you as an identity, saying you're a bad person. A girl being horrified, and how dare would you say that? It's subtly teaching you to be less like entertaining, less
have
masculine.
etiquette.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As opposed to like, these are just rules. Yes, it's very funny, but this is not how normal people act in this thing. You know what I mean? Hey, welcome, Rolo. Dude, look at this. You've gone from the beanie to your full
that.
That is what's the dude? Use Your Illusion 2.
No, I'm not. I'm not Rose.
Chinese democracy.
As much as Aaron, and that's like the only rock star in like Aaron Clary's vocabulary.
I know Gene Simmons.
Okay.
I'm aware of.
What about that guy in Aerosmith?
Steven Tyler. Yeah.
Yeah. But back to this point, and like, you guys probably have your own examples of this stuff too. And I know it's like the title is bromances, but something to be said for a guy in an authoritative position who's older, a little more mature, to show guys not just how to survive and thrive in a school social environment, but as a guy how to navigate it without losing what makes you a man. Because you don't want to be a woman. Because no woman will want to have sex with you. No woman will want to have your babies. Just ask every tradcon who doesn't even have a girlfriend trying to save the West right now.
Are you talking like we had mentors of some kind outside of the family?
Well, I don't even want to say mentors.
Or more like groups, or just an example, perhaps?
Just examples. Like, mentorship is a thing. Like, you're specifically looking to somebody to gain skill in a certain thing. But I'm not that. Just like literally examples. Exposure, if nothing else.
Exposure?
You know? Like, here, Rolo. Good question.
What can I pay for with my exposure bucks?
as I don't know if you can remember, but in elementary school and high school, what was your ratio of like male teachers to female teachers?
Oh, in high school? Oh, man. So if anybody has seen Stranger Things, I was Eddie back then. I literally graduated in 1986. That's the year that they're supposed to have. I would say it was still more women, but there was I would say it's maybe 60-40 for guys. There was like shop teachers. We had coaches. My math teachers were all male. My science teachers, my history teacher was in high school was male. I distinctly remember Mr. Wells when I was like sophomore or senior year. And there's a few others that like notables, but I can name them, but I would say I think probably at least 60%, maybe it was 60-40 mix back then. And this is the 80s, like mid 80s. So
is it not crazy though for you guys to think that nowadays guys may go their entire adult or to adulthood, having a single male authority figure in their life?
Stats on that one. Yeah.
Oh, you don't even need stats. Just use your goddamn eyes. Talk to a Zoomer.
Yeah,
Dad's not home. Either he's a workaholic or they're divorced. No kids in elementary school for guys because they call them child diddlers and they don't pay them very well. So what guy's going to stick around for that?
Right. Well, they chase them out too.
Yeah. Oh, 100%.
because they're not soft enough, they're not emotional enough, they're not woke enough. So a lot of the men get chased out of the profession.
Yeah, you're teaching toxic masculinity.
Why aren't you asking the kids about their pronouns and bullshit like that?
No.
You guys don't want to fucking deal with that.
Well, and that's why they're driven here. I mean, the only place you could probably go to get a masculine, I don't want to say father figure, but any kind of masculine male influence would have to be digital now.
Well, didn't Allie just tell you, like, Rolo, you're the dad of the group here, or were you?
I think
Claire?
that,
You won.
that survey was
no,
fraud.
that's Jordan Peterson because
Jordan
he did
Peterson.
job with his daughter. Yeah.
To be fair, the girls were fatherless, so like a drug addicted dad does seem kind of fitting. Too soon. I get it. I get
it was you this time.
Dude, I wanted to fail that one so bad. I'm like, maybe it's my Peter Pan syndrome. Like, don't you call me dad? You call me Poppy.
Hey, Ryan, put that infographic up on the screen. I love it when people give me this. Where are all the male teachers? Right. This is and I think this is actually kind of old data too. This is like 2009, 2012 when I picked this up.
So we're being optimistic about the state of affairs.
Yes, it's worse than this right now, but like this is as far back as, let's see, the earliest I think is 2007, 2008 is where this came from. But like you can even, I would love to see this updated, but like where are the male teachers? Like 25%, right? In the United States, men accounted for less than 25% of all teachers in the United States public schools, right? Canada is even worse than that. Only 17% of elementary teachers in Canada are male, and 25 again for the UK. Again, remember, this is old data. This is still for like almost 10 years, over 10 years old. So it's probably worse than this right now. And so you also got to remember, pupils try harder for male teachers. According to official studies, pupils make more effort to please male teachers, display greater self-esteem, and more likely to believe they are being treated fairly. Not unlike women complaining about female bosses, by the way. Yeah, exactly. Because women would rather, research has shown that women would rather have male bosses than female bosses because, you get that cat fight shit going on right there. But I would say that this is probably because like there's a natural want to look for leadership or like masculine, I guess, approval or whatever from men, right? And so many parents believe male teachers serve as a good role model for boys, particularly those without fathers in the home. Okay. So remember, this is over 10 years old. Teaching remains a female-dominated profession. This is especially true for younger children. According to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, 2% of pre-K kindergarten teachers and 18% of elementary middle school teachers are men. Now, why is that happening? First off, they want to say it's low status, right? If you're a teacher, you're not making a shit ton of money. Okay. Then there's low salary. Obviously, you're not making a shit ton of money. I think even the starting salary for like a basic public school teacher is probably maybe $40,000 a year.
Depends on the
Maybe,
district.
might be a little bit more than that. I'm not sure. It depends on like what your specialization is, I guess. And then there's fear of accusations, like you were saying before. They don't want to be called like little kitty touchers and stuff like that. And their margin for error is much greater, much higher than it is for women. So that's why you see, like, people kept asking me, Rolo, why do I keep seeing all of these stories about female teachers essentially they're rapists is what they are, because it's statutory rape. The kids that female teachers have sex with cannot, by law, by definition, give consent to have sex. Therefore, it is statutory rape. But we don't call it that. We call it a sexual tryst or a liaison or whatever. And the first thing out of anybody's mouth is, oh, where are those girls when I was in high school? Yuck, 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 yuck. Right? But the fact of the matter is, people hit me up and they go, why is this so endemic right now? I go, because only women are teaching. That's why. You go and you look at the statistics. This is from like 10 years ago. Only women are teaching your kids right now, more or less, unless it's a coach. Right, unless it's like a football coach, maybe. And
that's because people actually care about the outcome.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like real results. Yeah, because that's essentially what's happening. So when people say, "Well, what's the I as far back as 2017, 2018, when I was doing the Pat Campbell show, terrestrial radio, he would hit me up. He goes, "Why do you think this is happening?" I go, "Because there's only women that are teaching your kids right now. We teach our boys as if they're defective girls, and they're being taught by women who want to teach them as if they're little girls, because that's the only way that they know how to teach."
Yeah, and dude, there's so many of them too. Claire, you know Frank Servey, right?
Yeah, Frank, sure, of course.
He's actually he's got two things. He's got that Playboy magazine that he does, and then there's enough child diddlers, female teachers, that he actually can make like a social media branding campaign from it. He's been doing it for years. It's crazy. Like, that's how big of a problem it is now. It's now a marketing demographic like strategy.
I think the big thing too, though, is they've turned schooling in general into daycare. It's just daycare. And
you nailed it, Fitch. It's a babysitting operation.
I was going to be a teacher. Like, I had my teaching license. I student taught. I did some substitute teaching too, and it's not the schooling that I grew up with. It was pandering to these kids and just making sure everybody was fine and happy, and it was just daycare. It was daycare for high school kids, and I couldn't believe it. And the teachers that I was around and I saw that were teaching for 20 some years, they looked like they had their soul sucked out of them because they had no control, like they couldn't discipline. And this is 20 years ago. And that was the decision. I was like, I would rather risk everything and go and travel, 2,000-3,000 miles to the West Coast and fight people for money than get involved in the system, because it's broken.
Mm-hmm.
Dude, I don't know. And that's why the topic of this is like bromances and homances. So here's the next part. I'm going to transfer into this next one. Frat boy culture.
Yeah.
I got to do timestamps. You guys are really liking it where you do timestamps.
Bro culture. Isn't that called lad culture in the UK?
Over in the UK,
Probably.
Sure.
Lads. What?
The Brits
Did you guys have much experience with the frats in the sororities?
A little bit.
Not in Canada.
School, whatever.
They're non-existent here.
Purdue, when I was at Purdue University, was very Greek, they would say, or whatever, right? So
I don't know what you're talking about, so please walk me through it like I'm an idiot.
You kind of needed to go to those things, but it was kind of sad at the same time, because us guys who weren't in the frats, we viewed the guys in the frats like, they had to pay for their friendships, they had to pay for access to the girls. Like, it was kind of I don't know, like, if you weren't in the frat, you looked very down on them, but the frats looked down on everybody else. Like, you couldn't get into their parties. They hoarded a lot of the chicks because they had good time. They had the best drugs. I mean,
got it.
They had big houses, big parties. This is, back in the day. I don't think they do that shit anymore. But like, I don't know. Like, the whole frat thing was weird to me.
Well, and that's Rollo and Clary. You guys know this. Like, the frat boy culture has been under attack ever since the UVA rape hoax or grape hoax.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Mm-hmm.
It's like there's a bunch of little things, mattress girl, all that stuff. Rollo, I know you've got stats in this because I know you've talked about it. I've seen those episodes.
Yeah. Well, here's
the question. So here's the question I wanted to lead in with you, though.
I'll give you story time with Rollo.
Oh, please do. Please do.
When I went back to finally go get my degrees, right? I double majored finally. When I went back, I was already like 32, 33 when I went back to school, right? And just because I'm like, I had all this, like, these credits, but I needed to get them all together and stuff. And it was at a point where I was just like, I'm just going to get it. I need a degree. Right. And yes, it was an arts degree until I decided to get the science of psychology too. But I remember here I am, like, I'm a much older student at this time. Like, I'm in my early 30s, and most of the people that I'm in, like, sitting in class with are in their, like, early 20s. And I'm kind of glad that I went at that time, because I think I could appreciate, like, the quality, whatever, for what passed for a quality education back then. I could appreciate it a little bit more than I could have, like, say, if I was in my 20s. So you hear all these guys talking about, like, what am I going to need Western traditions for? Why am I going to need this? I'll never use it in my job. It was like all, like, focused on just, like, job acquisition. But I'll tell you what was funny is on the classes where I was there, like, say in the afternoons, because I was working and going to school at the same time. So I would be done with an 8-hour, 9-hour day at work, and then I would go to classes to go and to finish my degrees up, right? And I'm there, and I remember, like, right when, like, it was like, usually it was like rush week. If you know what rush week is, if you've ever been in a frat or a sorority, you know what rush week is. What it is, it's like a membership drive. They're trying to recruit you. And so I would always have to go to orientations and everything every time there was a new semester. So I'd have to go do that and go through the rigmarole of that shit. But what was funny is, like, I'd have to go do that, especially in the summertime, because it would be like in August, I think, like late August. and there would be frats that would be there, and they would actually try to recruit me at being like 32, 33 years old to be in the frat. And man, let me tell you something, it was tempting. It was very tempting to go into that because because I'm an older guy, right? So they want they want somebody who's older in the frat. Like, I can't live in the frat house if that, just so you know, right? And so like they're trying to recruit me during rush week, and it was like every time. And remember, I was there for 4 years. So I'm like every August for 4 years, I'm like, I got guys who are like, hey man, you should join, you'll get the full college experience. And then there's certain frats and sororities that have like different like reputations, and I could never do it. But I thought it was interesting that there were so many guys that looked at me and they're like, we need that guy in our frat, right? Even though he's an older, probably because I have money, right? They know you.
And a high GPA too is probably what it was as well.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting. I really, really wanted to do it, but like I just by my scheduling and logistics wouldn't allow me to do it. Just to say I was in a frat, right? But it never happened.
I'm trying to picture you as John Belushi.
No, yeah, I know, right? I think it would be kind of funny to have been like the frat dad, like been in there and like schooled these guys around. But
teach you guys how to fold a toga.
Yeah,
like really old school.
Yeah, but it was funny that they wanted to recruit me for like at least there was at least 2 frats out of like I think there are like 6 on campus in UNR that wanted me to be in.
You know what? I think there's something innate about this because the way you guys describe frat culture, my university experience had none of that, but the military did. Like Nelly's block, the base barracks was exactly how you describe frat boy culture, with like the cliques going in, the parties going in, hoarding the girls, having the cliquey stuff right there. And I'm wondering, there's got to be something innate about guys that when they get together and form a community, like an all-guy community, that frat boy culture is more nature than nurture. Do you know?
Yeah, I would
makes
tribalism almost to a certain extent. Yeah, and it's repressed, as Fitch was saying, it's repressed because the schools, for many reasons I can go into, is just a genuinely toxic environment, and it is an environment that masculinity and men are not going to grow or thrive or succeed in. It's prison. It's headed up by girls who don't give a damn about you. Lazy people go into education. And it's just a huge babysitting operation so your mom can go work and pay off her student loans, maybe, for a degree in sociology. And that's the truth. That's honest to God's truth. So there is no care or concern, and under the current zeitgeist of woman at the expense of the world is not enough. We can burn it for the way. Boys are kicked way back. So that there is no, boys are not going to thrive or sprout in that market. Then you get to college, and even now it's completely different. But it was the first time you could get out, and unless you were in sports, which I don't know what the current condition of sports are in high school or middle school for boys, maybe you could get a little bit out there. But when you got to college, then it's like, okay, there's no parents, there's very little oversight or guidance. Now you could start forming, and albeit it was sophomoric and crass and crude and dumb, but at least these guys started forming group, and you could join this group and get recruited and all that. Now, of course, college is nothing more than an extension of the education industry. They've cracked down on mass, certainly in culture. And I haven't seen a fraternity in a long time, but I hear from various agents in the field that they're now just doing the woke thing because, if I agree with women, then I'll get laid. So I think the idea of a 1980s house party or a movie, that is no longer the case. And it sounds like these are just, they're good nonprofit, and we're going to help with, and we're going to, they would do parties with sororities simply to get laid. Because there was a fraternity that I kind of belonged to. They wanted me to pledge and all that.
Whoa.
What?
Get into that.
What? They wanted me to pledge?
What are you, part of like a Ligma Balls sorority?
No. This was okay. All right, story time with Cappy. I'll give you a very, very quick story. True to classic 1980s movie form, the loser frat wanted me to join because I had a good GPA.
Nerds.
Yeah, and so I got invited to the parties, and then some friendly guys, and so I got to see it, but I just didn't have time, and I didn't have the money for the dues, so they really wanted me to come on board, but maybe I would have liked it, and I did have some fun with them, but I had to work, I had to go to school, so But it was like they'd invite the hot girls from the hot girl sorority party, and they were all snooty, and man, these guys just get drunk and they're having a good time and didn't give a damn about these girls. It was actually kind of fun.
Oh man, like I tell you what's funny is like when I was approached during Rush Week when I was in my 30s, like if I'd have been like 23 instead of 33, like I would have been like, get the fuck out of here. You know, like I would not want to have anything to do with frat boys when I was like, you know, being in a fraternity or something when I was in my early 20s. So I was too busy, like, you know, doing the Hollywood metal scene and everything like that. And that was like anti whatever I was all about at that time.
Metal back then was kind of punk though, almost like outsider shit though, not mainstream like it is now, isn't it?
It was very tribal. Like once again, like human beings are tribal. Like I hate it when I listen to like people like Peterson talking about the rights of the individual and shit. Like get the fuck out of here. Like that it's a feature of being a human, not a bug. It's one of the strengths of our species is that we are
sociability.
Yeah, exactly. And so like I get it right now. When I'm doing counseling, one of the first things I do is I ask the guys, do you have a network? Do you have a tribe? Do you have people that you hang out with at the gym? What do you like to do? Go shooting? Do you like to play golf? Do you like to do this? Whatever your hobbies are, like how are you social? And most of the guys don't have that whatsoever. Like they're watching this show, right? They're on Reddit, they're on Discord, those are their friends, but when they turn the computer off, they're there with themselves. And I think that's kind of that right there, just the tribalism aspect. Even online, we'll still create tribes online, you know?
Oh god, yeah,
big time.
Dude, the hit pieces on All Four of Us alone shows that. Just like we're a tribe ecosystem.
I haven't made it yet. Nobody's attacked me. I haven't made it yet. I'm not.
Really?
You'll get there. Don't worry, Fish.
Yeah.
I haven't been attacked by anybody yet. So
that's your two things on social media. You need death threats and nudes. Preferably female nudes.
People just say I'm boring. People call me boring, and then that's it.
It's funny, the one guy that could kill them here with like a flick of a wrist. And he's like, he's just boring.
Probably the least.
That's the funniest thing to me ever is the fact that like being good at. Oh well, I don't care that you're good at fighting. You're boring.
You know, I got.
Let me finish one real quick point here with Ryan. Yeah. But I would say with the fraternity thing, or at least the lack of the phenomena of it, getting back to it, that was usually a lot. Say 10, 15 years ago, that was the point in time men could finally start. You'd have a masculine culture for all of its drawbacks. Mm-hmm. Now that's not even there. And now with the internet, people are just, you're going to school online for God's sake.
Yeah.
So it is. So this bromance, at least in the analog world, is probably outdated. But that doesn't mean there isn't this hard. Biological hardwiring to find a tribe and to have a crew of guys. But that's where men go nowadays, I don't know.
It's where a lot of the depression probably is coming. They just had the new study that was released showing that there's no link between serotonin and depression. Yeah. So all the SSRIs.
Well, that sucks for SSRIs.
So all the people, the 13% of the people in the United States that are on SSRIs, it's bullshit. You're just being numbed. The reason that you're probably feeling depressed is probably you don't have that social network. You probably don't. I
cannot believe that the government will provide medication for something that doesn't actually cure the system that they're trying to cure. This is unheard of in the last few years of Western culture.
Shocking, isn't it?
And sorry, Rolo, I'm asking you this one actually. Didn't the UN describe like isolation as a form of like a human rights violation? Like torture?
Yeah, exactly. Well, I mean, solitary confinement, I guess. I have stats for this. I'll dig them up here real quick in the meantime. But like, I wanted to put this out there as far as like depression is concerned and being happy and all this other shit. One of the reasons I think why we have a misguided understanding of what depression is, or what really the reason why SSRIs are just sedation, just like OxyContin and fentanyl and Vicodin, like prescription painkillers. Those are sedations. Pornography is a sedation. Alcoholism is a sedation. Anything that is an escape that from your shitty life is a sedation, but it keeps you stuck in the quicksand. It keeps you stuck in neutral. And so like, when we're talking about depression, we're talking about happiness, you have to remember that the whole premise of it is like, it should be this sustainable state of being for the rest of your life. I want to be happy for the rest of my life. I lived happily ever after, right? And the fact of the matter is that's not what the emotion of happiness is about. depression, happiness, anger, hunger, like, the things that come from physical like phenomenon that trigger an emotional response. And what that emotional response is meant to do is move you from one state to another state. So you'll find that when people are the most happy is when they're fucking doing something, when they're actually in the midst of something that they really feel like that this is something I'm good at and I can do it and I really love doing it.
Hell, novel, walk me through this.
Well, exactly. Well, see, it's in the doing, not the getting to this point. Once I have this, I'll be happy. Once I have my degree, I'll be happy. Once I get this job, I'll be happy. Once I get to this bitch in my life, I'll be happy. No, you won't. You're happy on the going from point A to point B, but it's not a sustainable state. And that's why you get SSRIs. I'm always depressed, because depression is also an emotion meant to kick your ass out of one state and put you into another state. That's really the motivation of emotions, rather than saying, well, we should all just be happy all the time. That right there is what is being taught in schools right now by women, because they think it's a sustainable state. It is not. It is in the doing. Humanity is defined by discontent, not content. And that's a good fucking thing. That's a feature, not a bug, once again.
I hate this too, because you're right. Like, you're tapping into like, this is what our genes were kind of like built for, because that's what's managed to have us survive all this time. And then you got the group saying, well, we're more than our genealogy. And so they completely shed it. Throw away the baby with the bathwater. We lose the male groups. We lose the male happiness, whatever. But then you get the other side of guys that start tapping into like esoteric mumbo jumbo thinking. We're getting back to our caveman roots. And both guys kind of miss the masculine history of this stuff, do you know? Like, just something simple. Like, dude, John, you made a great joke about a guy dying with a dildo up his ass.
That's great.
And teacher even admit, dude, that's funny, but you fucked up. Military had the same thing. So many guys, it's like, dude, how many times you fucked up and showed up late for work? Every time the officer of the watch, before he charged you, would be like, was she worth it? But you see what I mean? There's kind of this, like, punishment isn't necessarily something, like, don't avoid the pain, but they're teaching you to be calculated with your risks. Yeah, if you're going to go out get laid in San Diego on Remembrance Day because chicks there love the military, some Spanish tart, that's great. You're going to get fucked over when you get back here, but you made that decision. You had that autonomy to you. And this is the one thing that I kind of want to, at least if the audience gets nothing else from this, is that this certain controlled version of calculated risk that you can only learn when other guys, A, hold you accountable to it, but B, let you have the freedom to make your own decisions. I think you lose a part of what makes a man. And even if you're one of those, I want to make myself a better man for women, I think that's one of the things that they're attracted to us. Because it's like, guys, you guys all have dated women in your lives. You've married women, whatever. How many of them were balls to the wall, don't give a shit about risk, versus like neurotic risk averse? I don't know about you guys. My girl is risk averse to the max.
Yeah,
I'm assuming yours.
Yeah, pretty risk averse. Yeah.
And imagine looking at you. The guy is like, you know what? I don't give a fuck. I'm going to be a professional author. Or you, like, I'm going to join a band again. It's been a while. And you, it's like, done with the UFC. Dana's a fucking asshole. I'm going to start my own thing.
Yep.
That looks like a fucking superpower to a woman. And if you guys didn't have these guys in your life that helped you make these risky choices to help to learn what your risk tolerance was, that shit would have all been gone. And we'd have all been Weish guys having I Hate Rolo 8-hour podcast with the black pill waffles. I tried to fit in a shitting, but I just don't have the heart for it. I'm just too happy.
Let me Ryan, put this up real quick so I can read you this quote here. So this is actually from a book, by the way. It's called Friends, Understanding the Power of Our Most Important Relationships. And this is basically what it says. Depressed people who belong to no groups at the start of the sample reduce their risk of depression in a later sample by almost a quarter if, in the meantime, they joined even one group. Tell me again how tribalism is a bad thing, right? Okay, if they joined 3 groups, it reduced the risk of depression by almost 2/3. As they commented, membership of social groups is both protective against developing depression and curative of existing depression. Get out and fucking do something. Get out there and form networks. That you want to be undepressed. You don't need SSRIs. You need to get off your ass and go out and do something.
Well, wouldn't this be the biggest problem facing, and probably also facing women today, but they take no agency or control to solve their problems. So I'm only going to, no, I'm deadly serious. Like it's half the reason.
Well, it ain't shit. I'm with you.
No,
it's an entertainment director. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. An entertainment director. But that's the problem facing young boys today. Is like you don't have, there's no male infrastructure support from birth to whenever your mom divorces your dad, and certainly not through college and all that other stuff. And what do you put? I know we're here digitally, but it is still synthetic and it is not the real thing. It helps. It's a great substitute because it's the only thing that exists. But there is nothing in the real world that exists in terms of institutions, traditionalism, cultural events and things like that. So you boys have to go out and find it yourself. Like I just had a client earlier today, like, how do I find friends hiking? And I've been there before. I'm like, you kind of don't. You know why? Because everyone is not going out to their meetup groups. They say, oh, yeah, I'll go to the meetup group for the hiking group. And no one shows up. When they go out hiking, maybe if they do hike, they do a little bit. It's not really a hike. They're like, oh, we're just doing it to kind of socialize. And then no one talks to each other. That's the biggest problem and the biggest hurdle facing young men and older men today. Is you got to go and find these groups and you got to hunt them down and you got to really throw yourself at them. And because of modern day society, even those institutions are kind of meh. You go to the Masons, there's a bunch of old timers like, we're going to worship this thing. We're going to bow down here. And now here's the trinket. Then we're going to, it's like, oh God, like, can we have a little bit of bonding here? Maybe a little bit of something to give younger people. But it's a chore, guys, and you got to go out and do it. Otherwise, you are stuck at home, getting depressed, getting sad, and you could tune into us and consume all the media and the content and be in Discord servers and chat rooms all you want. That is not going to cure your depression. That is not going to give you a reason to get out of bed in the morning. It's not going to make you feel. It's going to make you feel better, but not as good as you need to.
So we're basically bromance porn.
Well, but it's not bromance porn. Well, yeah, it is. It is. It's digital. But you have to go out and find your tribe. And that is hard. I mean, even I'm out here, like there was a hiking group I joined. It was all a bunch of old ladies and they didn't hike. They were like, okay, we're going to do this little route. Then we're going to drink wine. I'm like, oh no. And thank God I found my poker crew, like those guys, I got that. But I've been looking for that for 10 years. So I understand, just so you know, society's given up on creating these institutions and organizations and tribes and networks. Yep. You got to go out and do it, but it is vital. Okay, fine, we're here, we're academic. Internet makes us very convenient, but we got to go out into the real, and that's your job. That's your goal, is to find these real world networks.
That's not a bad thing either, though. Like, I'll give you this.
Not bad, no.
Everybody loves to shit on like pickup artists, right? And I did that in my 20s. I make no secret of it. I don't care. I will say this. Every time I go to like any type of meetup thing where there's a bunch of guys, like you said, guys are antisocial. They don't know how to talk and that. I just run openers on the guys there, and then the guys light up the same way as a chick lights up when I don't have to finger fuck my phone. There's a conversation in front of me. Holy shit. I know it sounds weird, but you almost have to run like the mystery method on other dudes because we are so starved for male attention and male camaraderie that as soon as they get a whiff of it, it's like, here's some crack. First hit's free. Holy shit.
That's a big part of the whole pickup thing that I understood too, was like, it wasn't just like gaming chicks. It was opening up groups of people.
Yeah.
You had to make friends with the guys who are around the girls you wanted to talk to. Mm-hmm. Otherwise you're going to get blown out of the water by the guys.
Pretty much.
You have to make friends with those guys first. You got to make friends with the mother hen first.
Oh,
and then you can start working on the chicks.
Exactly. You remember the mother hen shit, Rolo, don't you?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, so many guys. That was like, it was funny how that was like the biggest thing back in the day. It's like, there's your chubby cock blocking friend. How do I beat this? And guys are like, let's put our collective autistic heads together and let's solve. How do we fix for this fucking asshole here?
We had a ringer.
I used to do that. I used to do when I was I can remember
he would just pick the fattest girl in the room every time.
Oh, the grenade boy, yeah.
But it wasn't a grenade for him. He just thought it was saw it as low hanging fruit.
You had one too. Yes. It's all pink guys. Those dude. So if you guys get one, he never pays for drinks.
And he would go right for that mother hen, and we were just like, yes. And the rest of the night.
And he's thanking you. Rolo, you were telling us.
I got to go be social and help somebody move some furniture and then hike in these horrible black hills.
Oh my goodness!
You guys have fun on the internet, all right?
Have fun.
See you guys.
You know, he stopped wearing Hawaiian shirts after that time we did the Alley podcast together, and I wore my worst Hawaiian shirt to make fun of him, and it was like the exact same shirt he came on with.
I have a Slayer shirt that's a Hawaiian shirt.
Nice. Oh, but yeah, we cut you off. You were going to tell us a story about from like So Suave days, I assume.
No. I was going to tell you guys a story. The mother hen thing. Oh, okay. Yeah, I know what it was. When I was working in wine and spirits on a regular basis, I used to have to do a lot of promos, right? As you guys know, I was talking about my poor girls and everything else. When I was at these promos, I got into, because once people knew like I was Rolo Tomasi, once they like the guys who were our distributors or our sales guys, the sales staff, like the guys who are salesmen in the liquor industry are all hustlers. I don't think you can't be timid in alcohol sales, otherwise you don't make any sales, right? And a lot of these guys get into it, they're younger guys, they get into alcohol and sales because it puts them in the clubs, right? It puts them like in a working relationship with like if you got a big account and you got a big back bar, you're always getting in the VIPs. Oh, you're a rep for the alcohol, so we're going to put you in here, blah, blah, blah. And that's really, there's one of the perks of the job, right? Well, when I had these guys at like a liquor promo or a martini fest or something like, especially like if it was in a hot spot like Deerfield Beach or it was like St. Augustine or it was in Miami or something, the guys would be there at the promos because they just wanted to be there. Like it wasn't like they were trying to sell anything. They were just sort of like schmoozing kind of thing. And they were there because the chicks were there. And so they're alcohol, reps and sales guys. And so they're like working on girls. But the thing is like, you never know what you're going to get at liquor promos. So it might be a lot of ratchet girls from like South Beach, but it also might be 40 plus like divorcees who are celebrating their divorce with like cheap liquor. So what would happen is like these guys would be like working the crowd, and then they get bogged down by a couple of chicks who were like 43, 45 years old. And they had to like be polite because they didn't want to be rude to these chicks, because that was like their job was to be polite, right? But they couldn't couldn't extract themselves away from like the older chicks. And so it was my job to like point to see this happen every now and then, go over there, jump on the grenade for them and go, hey ladies, have you tried this cocktail over here? And then so they would come over there and the guys would leave. Like it was like extracting them from being like sort of tar pitted by 40 plus chicks so they could go get with like the 22-year-olds, right? And so the problem with that is like now it's on me, and I pulled them away. And so it depending on how sober the women were, they would be like, I see what you just did. Like, because they were trying to get they were trying to play cougar, right? They're trying to get with the younger guy, but then I'm the one that comes over there and just sort of like, schmoozes my way in and drags them away. And
yeah, but you helped them save face. They should be thanking you.
Yeah, so that those guys can go and they will go, man, you're a great wingman. I'm like, no, I just pulled you out of a bad situation. Yeah.
But see what I mean? Like, I get it. There's all the bad parts of frat boy culture and these organizations. I get that. But there's so much good stuff too. Mm-hmm. And I know boys will be boys is like, it's a meme at this point, but it's kind of true. Like, let guys make mistakes. Let John say the dead guy had a dildo shoved up his ass. Yeah, you're not supposed to do that, but now he knows. Like, you guys are both parents. Mm-hmm. Remember that? I don't know which side on the fence you go on. If the kid has a fork and wants to go to the electric socket, you're like, the best way to learn is to have him go do it? Or are you like, the best way to learn is give me the goddamn fork? I would assume you're more of like just stick it in there, try it.
Well, mitigated risk. The fork and
maybe not electric socket.
It's a lot worse. If they keep pulling on something that's going to fall off a countertop that isn't going to do much, but scare them and maybe give them a bruise, then yeah, maybe they have to learn. I tell them a few times, I explain what's going to happen. But sometimes you gotta pull the toaster down on your head.
Yeah, I think it's a mitigated risk is what it is, a calculated risk. So do you let the kid put the fork in the socket? Probably not. But do you let the kid touch the hot stove? Maybe. right? It kind of depends. Like, do I want to fix the wiring in my house, or do I want to like teach the kid a lesson with a hot stove? Like, well, it's there's other ways to teach that lesson with pain.
Yeah,
but, maybe it's
not on me to come up with better metaphors. I'll own that.
There's finger in the socket pain, and then there's hot stove pain. I might go with just the hot stove pain. No.
And here, so we're talking about kids, like at this point, right? Like young guys, whatever.
Oh,
let's go older now.
I got a question. I wish Cappy was here. I got another question, but go ahead. Finish what you're saying.
Professional groups. So this isn't just something that kids need. This isn't just something that 20-year-olds need. I would argue professional groups, guys in their 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, same thing. A small story to start this off: the Legion, the Canadian Legion. That's where ex-military veterans would go, and this is their continued camaraderie after leaving the forces. And this is how guys, we're not blameless in ruining these things. So the World War II vets were very, very tribal with it, to the point that the Korean War vets weren't allowed in the club. And so eventually, fuck you, I don't want to be a part of your club anyway. So they found out that as the World War II vets started dying, nobody was rejoining. So they started trying to do Afghanistan like recruitment for the guys that went to that war. But those guys all kind of served at the beginning and the tail end of the Korean guys. So they never had a good idea of the Legion. So the Legion started opening itself up to civilians. And now we're at the point that, like, look, talking about the Legion now is like embarrassing. Like, why would you talk to there? It's just a bunch of soccer moms that husband like does paintball on the weekends.
What's happened to the church? You have
the church, yes,
you have pro-choice priests,
which is crazy. Because isn't a big part of the church, like, you go there, you find yourself your good Christian wife that won't fuck you over, but who's paying the church tithes right now? Single moms that need forgiveness, and they're like, man up and marry these hoes.
Something very hard to do. It's hard to live by the way the Bible says you're supposed to. It's not an easy thing to do those things and to live that way. It's work.
Which makes sense, because you wouldn't need all those buildings if it was easy, right?
But they've gotten rid of that. They've gotten rid of the hard work. Now you just have to have the right attitude or whatever. Like, everybody's love, everybody's peace. There's no standard of like, you need to raise yourself to a certain level. You're fine. You're perfect just the way you are.
And let's face it. You look at all the brands in the manosphere or the red pill, and you clearly can see how standards and gatekeeping have like a really strong effect on the positivity or the negativity of a thing here. But here's my kind of like lead-in question for you guys then. As an adult, even though if you have good formative experiences, good male groups when you're 20s, good male groups in your teens, not having that carry through to your adult years can have a detrimental effect. And I'm curious, like anecdotes, statistics, all this kind of shit. Let's teach these guys, hey, when you're 40, you're still going to want a club of guys.
Yeah. Well, you are. And I'm looking in the chat here, and people are going, "Oh, tribalism's not a good thing." Yeah, well, it's not if your entire identity has been built around like sitting behind a screen, and your socialization from the time you were like, I don't know, your 12 years, your tween years, right?
Yeah.
If your socialization has come from Twitter, Tumblr, Reddit, Discord, God knows whatever, what other social media that guys are into right now. If that's what raised you, yeah, I can totally understand why you would have that opinion of, quote unquote tribalism. But the thing is you can't help it. You're going to form tribes. Your tribe is on Discord. Your tribe is your tribe is Andrew Tate's tribe, Tate tribe, right? Rolo tribe, whatever tribe, so guys are going to form coalitions, tribes, whatever it is. Your first tribe, of course, is going to be your family. That's why we're a successful species, because we prioritize our family and our own DNA, or even like derivatives of our DNA, before anything else. Go read a freaking book on evolutionary psychology or evolutionary biology, for that matter. You don't like Evo Psych? Fine. Evo Bio will back it up just as well. So my question is where do guys go now? I mean, if I was kind of hoping Aaron was going to stick around, but like the question I would ask is like, I've known Aaron probably since I think 2009 or 2010, like before I even went public or anything else, when he wrote the book Worthless. And Worthless was about like, these degrees are effectively worthless. And he's been talking about this for 10, 12, God knows how many, 14 years now, about how going to college and taking out these loans and putting yourself at a deficit early on in life is a bad idea, especially if those degrees and that investment in your education doesn't lead you, like if it like hinders you in life, what's the point of going and getting it? It's a worthless degree. That's what the whole book was about. So my question is this, is like, where do guys go to get an education? And I asked that. I was on Robert Kiyosaki's show that never got published, that never came out. But one of the questions I put to the panel was, where do guys go to get education? Where do they go to? Because we constantly tell guys, oh, going to college is worthless. Taking out loans for college student loans, unless it's a STEM field or something like that, it's worthless. And even then, like, you'll get guys who are like, the hustlers of the world will say, why I went to college and I thought it was worthless. Or I was in high school and I didn't see the point of it. And it's like, yeah, because your only point is to actually be able to make money, which of course they probably are right now. But back then, when you were a kid and you didn't know what the hell you were doing, education seemed like a good idea. And I've said this before, I'll say this again. I put this in, I think, Positive Masculinity, my third book, is education is its own reward. You need to be an educated human being, right? You need to know a lot of stuff about a lot of stuff, okay? I drink and I know things, right? So you should be able to change a flat tire. You should be able to tie a necktie. You should be able to drive a stick shift. You should be able to do mathematics up to at least basic algebra, I think. You should know history. When we talk about, oh, don't these kids know the history of the United States? Or don't they know, why are they pulling down these statues and everything? It's like, well, you told them not to go to school. You told them it's worthless to go to these socialist, communist, feminist indoctrination camps that we call universities. So where are they going to learn this? Where are they going to learn U.S. civics? Where are they going to learn, basic shit? Oh, well, they'll learn online. Yeah, you know where they're going to learn it? From us, from you, me, Ryan. Everybody. That's where they're going for education. So when you look at the stats right now for college enrollment, university enrollment, and you look at, it's like 60-40 right now, and it's going up, by the way. That 60-40, like 60% women and 40% men, it's going up for women and down for men, like incrementally for probably by 2024, 2025, it's going to be even worse than that, because guys don't see any point in going to a feminist indoctrination camp and putting themselves at a net deficit in life by taking out student loans that they can barely, qualify for anyways, because they don't have tits and a vagina. So when we tell guys it's worthless, you're wasting your time if you go to college, okay, but you still have a generation of guys who didn't go to college because they took your advice. They're still looking for tribes. They don't know how to deal with men. They have no idea how to be competitive. They don't, they're like the guys, by the way, who are on, I forget what's Clicks or whoever Andrew Tate is going at these days. And you have this clash between these guys who are, we say like, we raise our boys as if they're defective girls. Well, those defective girls who are boys turn into defective women. And so you've got guys who are like from a different generation. They go, you're a pussy because X, Y, and Z. And they have no frame of reference because they've never been educated in any other way. So when guys are coming to me, or they're going to Fitch to learn to fight, or they're going to you, Ryan, to learn, philosophical things.
Oh, shush. God damn Clary and his nonsense.
We're the teachers now. I'm a teacher. Aaron is most definitely a teacher. Almost his entire audience is looking for like guidance. And common sense has become so rare. You can commodify it. You can monetize common sense right now, because we've been telling kids for the longest time, like even Jordan Peterson's talking about how these guys are like the Lost Boys generation. Well, yeah, because they don't see any, and they have no incentive to go and educate themselves. They have no incentive to do that. Meanwhile, my daughter just graduated with her master's degree, and the skew for doctorates and masters is even worse. So when we talk about 60-40 enrollment, that's enrollment. That's not graduation. Women graduate more than men do, right? Men, like guys who go in, they go, maybe college isn't for me. I'm going to leave, whatever it is. More women graduate. So enrollment is one thing. Graduation, like actually going through it and getting your degree, that's another thing. And it gets even worse askew when you get into higher education, like doctorates and masters. The skew for my daughter's graduating class at UNLV was like 67% women, and it was like 33% guys, I think is what it was.
Damn, yes,
I was
queen.
like,
Jesus.
damn, it's like this stream of women going across, grabbing their diploma and getting off the stage during the graduation ceremonies. And I was like, damn. And I thought about that, and I go, we constantly rattle off the statistic about 60-40 enrollment. That's not what we should be looking at. We should be looking at the rate of graduation for men and women, because it doesn't matter who's enrolling; it matters who's graduating.
Well,
where do guys to get educated though? Where should they go to be educated?
A big problem though is that who the fuck takes those credentials seriously anymore? Like when some chick
getting smaller,
listing off, hey, I have my master's, I have my doctorate. I start giggling to myself like, oh, you're kind of a stupid person, huh? You got scammed. You're a good slave. You're a massive statist. You're a threat to me and my family. Even like, I don't look at that as like a valued position. I'm not going to look at somebody and be like, oh, I graduated and I got my doctorate from Harvard. I'm like, oh, you're one of those people. You're not a good person. Like that's where it's gone today. Like I don't think 20 years ago, if somebody would have told me that they got a PhD from Harvard, I would have been impressed. Nowadays, I'm just like, ugh.
Yeah, because it used to mean something. It used to mean
so. Like, there's no meaning in these things. So all these girls are like, hey, look what I got, and then the guys are like, so you're stupid. Like we look down at you for putting yourself through that, putting yourself in this deficit, and the education you got was garbage too, because it's all woke garbage.
It's like what you were saying an hour ago with the frats, how you guys look down at them for being the frat boys, but they look down on you. The question is, who's the one bringing in sorority chicks? That's always the big one. All right, here, Rolo, I guess we should get this one out of the way. Sid, how do you start a heavy metal band? You may not have the perfect answer for it, but you have a good one.
Practice, my friend. How do you get to Carnegie Hall?
Like there is no days anymore where you have the piece of paper where you cut the phone number. And
Actually, that's
for a guitarist.
Well, it relates because, like right now, when I was coming up, it was much more difficult. We used to go to school. We used to go to band practice uphill both ways, and we'd eat rocks, and we were thankful for those rocks. No, I can remember. I've told guys stories about this before. Is when I was in my late teens, early 20s. That's when I started wanting to like get into a band and start forming a band. I always wanted to when I was a kid, right? But like seriously doing it. I don't think a lot of people really realize that there's a lot of other like sort of side things that you have to know besides just being able to play your instrument and write a song, right? You have to know recording. You have to be able to be good with people too, because there's a showman's aspect of it as well. You got to know recording, standards. You also have to know your tech. You also have to know your amps. You have to know your guitar. You have to know, like, how am I going to transport myself from, the rehearsal studio to the gig, right? There's a lot of things that come that are like, people have no idea how much work it takes to like produce an album, produce a, even just a 4-song EP, by the way, which we're just about ready to release. But all the stuff that goes into that doesn't have anything to do with you going up there and shaking your ass on stage, right? It's about a lot of work and a lot of things that come along with that. And I think a lot of that is lost on guys right now for much of the same reason what I was just talking about. It's too easy just to sit at home and just like work in like Logic Pro or whatever it is that your recording is. And you see these guys who are fantastic musicians, but they suck as band members because they've never been in a situation where they have to collab. And they've never started a band. Like when I was a kid, you used to have to, go find some guys who all played a different instrument. First of all, if you wanted to play guitar or bass or whatever it is, then that's what you did. And you found other guys and you put a band together, or you put an ad in the classified ads or whatever. And you were hoping to God that they had a rehearsal space that couldn't get shut down after 10 p.m. so that you could actually write. And these guys were dedicated. And there's a lot of it's like this perfect storm of things that have to come together. That's completely lost on this generation of of musicians right now. And I'm not saying that they're bad musicians. There's some really good guys out there, but I'm saying that the way that they do it now is it doesn't foster cooperation. It doesn't foster like collaboration between creative collaboration between members of the band. So like when I'm in the band right now, I'm technically the rhythm guitarist in this band, but I bring a lot to the table because I write songs and I write lyrics and stuff. And so we have this kind of synergies between us. But right now that's very difficult to do because we're sitting like most guys. Like when I learned to play, I sat in front of an amp with a tape, tape deck, a cassette tape deck, so I could learn shit if I wanted to learn it. Whereas now we're sitting, right at the computer, and we've got everything done for us, but we're isolated. It's very much an introverted kind of thing rather than an extroversion. And I don't think people really you want to know why like The Voice is a big deal right now, or like guys.
You mean the reality show where they
reality shows, or like thinking like, or it's like, well, we're gonna put you on stage and we're gonna judge your talent, right? Well, it's individual. It's one guy going up there and usually just singing, right? I think there's a band show that's like on YouTube, but other than that, like those, like people think the way you become a rock star is you go on, American Idol, or you go on, The Voice or whatever it is. You get a record contract and that's how you become Kelly Clarkson, right? Mm-hmm. And that's not how you create a band. That's not how you create good music. That's why I think a lot of the music today sucks, because it's very insular. It's very like, tunnel vision, because you're not collaborating with other people all the time. And that's why we live in an age where it's like the singular rock star rather than the band.
Like EDM is huge for that reason. It's one guy.
Yeah, the DJ. Everybody wants the DJ.
And it's funny. I don't know if a lot of guys draw this connection, but the way Rolo's talking about putting a band together and making a song.
Tribes.
It's strictly, it's a more sophisticated thing of like cave people making a tribe and building spears to go hunt. It's the exact same process, just more sophisticated, because hopefully we're more advanced than cavemen.
So that's
John, no offense.
But that's the big question though, then, is how do we find the tribes? How do we form the tribes? Because I'm 44 years old. I'm divorced. I live 2,400 miles away from the place I grew up. How do you make friends? How do you find that group? Because I'm out on the West Coast. Like there's not very many people around me that think like me and believe the things that I believe, and it can be very difficult for people to find friends. Just as an adult man, it's hard to find a friend. You meet a new person and ask for their number to hang out. Like you're going to be looked at weird, maybe.
Well, you're right. I actually fly.
It's not easy. And that's one reason why I love these Saturday
locally.
conversations, because it's virtual, but this is like one of the only times I get to talk to people whose like opinions I really respect and like I want to hear from, and I get excited about these conversations we have on Saturdays. But like it's hard. I'm out here in the Bay Area, like I'm miserable.
Soy capital.
Like I got my kids, I got my dog, I got my girlfriend. But like,
I'm gonna go out on a limb here and say that one of the very reason why it's difficult for you to find tribe, like for men in general to find tribes, is by design. They want you to stay insular. They want you to not have tribes. They don't want you to go to church. They don't want you to go to the gym. They don't want you to do anything other than go to work and don't say anything, because if you do, you might get Me Too'd, right? It's this idea that you should just spend your life online. I mean, one of the worst things that ever happened, I think to guys anyways, was like the lockdowns, right? Because you're effectively atomizing groups at that point. You can't get to the gym, you can't go do your regular things, you can't go play golf with your buddies, kind of thing. And I don't think it's like say John, like when I talk to guys who like tell me I don't know how to deal with guys, like I was never brought up to like understand what the difference between bullying and people like ribbing me and like giving like guys give other guys shit tests, right? And it's really tough for guys who've been brought up in a education system that is nothing but women to understand when a guy who's a guy like is like fucking with you, right? I can go, I could like when I met Ryan for the first time, I started fucking with Ryan, and I knew it was cool because I could fuck with Ryan, and I could fuck with you, and I could fuck with Aaron. Everybody fucks with Aaron, right? But just that fucking with somebody, right? With a guy, we do that because we're trying to say, are you cool? Do you get me? Yeah, you do. Cool, good. We can hang, right? That's really where it's at. And most guys these days, certainly from the last like 2 generations, millennials and Zillennials and Z, like they don't get it. They think that that's hazing. They think that that's bullying.
Good example. We're talking. My buddy's kind of a little bit. He's blue pilled. He's one of my best friends ever. But like. Supporting the whole Ukraine thing. And like I'm ribbing him because I think it's all bullshit, whatever. But like I take it a step further. I was like, bro, I'm rooting for Putin. He's like, let's go Russia. You know, like, and he got upset. He had to go sit at the bar by himself for a minute to like have a beer, and like he was mad. He wanted to punch me in the mouth.
Yeah.
Like,
well, it's
mad. But like,
the atomization of men, especially like masculinity right now. Like when I look at, and you know, I know how you are with Andrew Tate, Ryan, but like when I watch Tate,
not him, the brand and the process, and it's a like gatekeeping thing.
So I'm watching him on the, what is it, XQC or whatever. I don't even know what everybody's got some freaking H3 XQC. Like, come on, dude, just like freaking say, make up a name at least, right? And I'm watching this back and forth, and I'm like, these guys don't know how to be men. They have no earthly idea because they're from a generation where they've been so isolated and they're so insular that they have no idea. And so when a guy like Andrew Tate comes on their show and just like rattles their cage, they're like, it's like this panic, and it's like, he's over in Romania. You're in your studio. Why are you like breathing fast? You know, where is this nervous shit? Aiden and
dude, a strategically placed fuck off is the most amazing tool in the world.
And so
you would be surprised.
So you're looking at a generation of guys that like guys from like Tate's generation, whatever that might be, my generation and Aaron's generation are the same. And we're like there and we're talking to these guys and they just piss their pants because we present them with ideas that sound like bullying, that sound like, oh, that sounds like toxic masculinity. And if I agree with that, then girls won't want to fuck me. Right. That's and so when I see this and I see guys say, well, I don't have a tribe. I don't have a band. I don't have a whatever it is. I've had guys tell me this. They say, Rolla, we really want to start a book group. We want to talk about, men want to start a book group about like the rational male. And I'm like, please don't do that. Don't get together and go, okay, we're all going to sit around the campfire and read the rational male. I want you to buy the book. Don't get me wrong, but I don't want you to do that. What I want you to do is get with a bunch of guys who like to do the same shit. Do you guys like to go to the shooting range? Go there. Make friends there. Take your gun there. You'll meet people. Hey, is that a cool? Can I shoot that? Sure, they'll be happy. Guys love to talk about guns. Yeah. Guys,
they may bust your balls a bit first to see if you're cool.
To talk about fishing. Guys love to talk about cars. Whatever the fuck it is, whatever your like thing is. Like I like to play Warhammer at 40,000. I have some good friends that I would never introduce to this show, but I will go down to the game store and I will hang out with them for like hours on end, and they're my tribe for 4 hours or 3 hours, whatever. When I go to rehearsal after band practice after this show, the one woman and the two guys that are in my band are my tribe for as long as we're there and we're doing stuff. And you just have to look for those things, and you have to understand that women talk, men do. And so when we form tribes and we have communication and we're talking, we form networks and we have friendships, it's as a result of having a shared interest or having a problem or having we're going to solve this problem. We're going to fix this car. We're going to do this thing together, and we're going to talk some good shit while we're doing it. That's what I want you to do. Don't sit around a campfire and have coffee and go, oh, we're going to talk about the rational male. Don't do that. Go fishing and talk about the rational male. Go lift weights and talk about the rational male. Be fucking doing something, and you will form tribes.
Oh, I want to push back a bit, though, when you're saying it's like they want it to happen. And I'm not pushing back with a more positive message. If anything, mine's a little more dystopic. I don't think there's anybody at the helm. I think it's emergent strategy. I think when you atomize men, it helps. When you're marketing, a guy who's alone and lonely is easier to attach some kind of limbic brain resonant message to. So it's not that they want it, but when guys who do have it, they're easier to market to. So it's just like it's a feedback loop there. Same as like chicks. If there's a guy with a strong group of guys, he's not going to put up with my shit. So everybody, just their self-interest is kind of encouraged by having weak, atomized men. And I would honestly prefer it if it was some like cabal of evil people trying to keep men down, because then at least that's something you can fight. And this is where I'm dystopic about it. I think it's
enemies. Because we're tribes. That's where tribalism. There's us, and
exactly.
Then there's
but here's the thing. This is where I think this is why it's gotten as bad as it is, because we don't have the tools to handle a non-enemy enemy like that. Lovecraftian. This is more Lovecraftian than tribal. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And so we're kind of in this neat stage. Like we're all asking questions. How do you make your tribe? How do you make it work on the internet age? Like Fitch, you were saying, it's a hard time making new friends and older. I'm at the same place. I fly from Halifax to Vancouver to go see my friends because they're that hard to find. We make the effort. And I hate to say it, but you can't just tell that to everybody. Just fly around the world and see your friends individually, because it's not for most people, that's not a realistic way to do it. And we're at the innovation stage.
Once a year.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm happy to have it. I'm not complaining at all myself. But we're at this stage where we're almost like the novelty, the invention of the computer, the invention of the internal combustion engine. Right now, we're the invention of like the new tribal way of men getting together. How does this play out? I don't know. Unfortunately, we're at the tip of the spear at this point. So you guys have to come up with something better. And hopefully you can stand on our shoulders and come up with it. But I'll be more than happy to cheerlead you when you get it. You've gotten the best that any one of us has to offer. And at this point, it's kind of on you. Same thing with the groups. Like you guys said, run into some new guys, open the group. How do I find male tribes? Go make one. Guys, if guys are truly as bored and atomized, they'll jump at the chance. The first guy who sounds like he has an ounce of sense. And yeah, I shit on Tate, but I'll say this. His multi-level marketing scheme got a ton of guys talking about him. If you could tap into that same method that he's using to weaponize autism on the internet to make money, use that to make a friend group, you'd be surprised.
Yep.
Maybe you don't have to buy a Lambo to get there. Maybe you can get by with a Honda Civic, but whatever. It's a group of friends. You'll be fine.
You know, it's funny. I'll tell you something that's really interesting. And I learned this from years working in casinos. Okay.
Oh.
If you look at the casinos and you look at who is gambling like face to face on table games versus who is sitting there in front of a video poker machine or a video slot machine, like you will see, especially like craps. Craps is my game. I play 21 occasionally, but like if I'm staying at a resort or something like that, I'll go down to the craps table. You know why? Because it's almost entirely men that are there shooting, because they know how to do it, and it's a fun thing. It's a social game, basically. It's like you want that dude who's rolling the dice, you want him to succeed, because if he succeeds, you succeed as well. So when you go and you go down to the, like, guys, if you are not a gambler, you don't know what anything about, learn craps. Seriously, it's the best odds in the house anyways. Go learn craps and learn how to play craps, because when you go to that table, you're seeing somebody face to face. Whenever I look at the majority of money in casinos comes from video poker and video machines and stuff like that, slots and stuff. And it's like, it's the difference between masturbation and having sex with somebody. Okay. And I mean this like, if you're looking at the machine, all you're doing is pulling the thing, you're just doing this thing. Oh, I got something. Yeah. It's not a party thing. It's not something that's, to me anyways, it's not something that's enjoyable. But when you go to the craps tables, or if you play poker, or if you're playing whatever, I say blackjack. Because craps is like, it's cooperative. Like guys get together and like, come on, man, get that run, get that 7, get that whatever number, whatever the call number is, right? Get to that. Like you're rooting for that guy, because if that guy wins, you win too. So you've got this sort of camaraderie that forms as a result of you playing throwing dice, right? And that's the difference. I would much rather play table games and have somebody across from me where I'm looking them in the eye and we're playing a game and we're talking while we're doing it. And even if you're playing 21, the dealer wants you to win, because he wants to get a good tip. He wants to get he wants you to tip him out. If you go, you get a really good run, he wants to get that tip. So he's on your side too. And so you're playing these games as opposed to playing in front of like this video screen. And that's the difference, I think. I hate to get all, I'm using a metaphor. I'm sorry, I shouldn't do that online. But that's the metaphor, right? It's like you're jerking off to virtual gambling, or you're like right there in front of somebody and you're having a good time, and suddenly you make friends, right? When I went, was Justin Waller, Sterling Cooper, and Tom, who does my clips channel, came up to Tahoe last October, and they'd never really gambled all that much in their lives. I took them to the craps table, and instantly they loved it. They're going straight to the cashier and like getting out $200-300 so that they could just participate in the game. And and they won. Thank God, they won some money out of it. But it was more about the fun of playing the game and like the back and forth than it was about, I just lost $200 or I made $400, which is great. But it's the social aspect of it, rather than pumping, pulling the like a rat in the maze kind of thing. And that's the difference between like being online and learning online and being out there face to face with some guy that you're like, you don't even know. I don't know anybody at the craps table when I go there, but like, I know how to play. I assume that everybody else knows how to play. And if they don't, I'll teach them how to play too. Right. So you've got this camaraderie that goes along as a result that instantly starts. And you'll see, I guarantee you, go to any casino, look at the craps table. It's almost all guys that are around that table.
It's funny you mentioned that because my dad, the divorce was from like excessive gambling to the point where he'd show up one day and furniture would be missing. And I never liked gambling for that reason.
What did he do? What was his game?
Oh, it's sports betting for the most part. But I will say this, in Croatia,
very isolated and insular. Yes.
Yeah. But in Croatia, I remember we went there as a casino and I just took the attitude, like I got $500 to burn. I'm just going to assume it's already gone. I'm not even trying to win. And I did notice as I did all the tables, craps was the one I had the most enjoyment on. And I didn't even click for those reasons, but it kind of makes sense in retrospect.
I never learned craps, but
I didn't even know it at the point. That was the
roulette.
thing.
Blackjack and roulette were the things I played, and it was like everything that you're talking about, Rolo. You know, you have people around you, and it's you guys, all you guys against the house. So you're kind of cheering each other on. Like you want everybody, you know, if somebody keeps picking numbers right on the roulette table, like you start following their bets, and then you're both winning, and everybody's high fiving. It's fun. Like blackjack. If you're, I had a guy give me $100 to leave the table once.
They'll do that, by the way. Yeah.
Pay you to leave.
Because I kept taking his cards. I didn't know when to hold or hit at the right time. And he was getting frustrated
because you fuck up their system. That's why.
Yeah, he's playing a big stack, and he's like, hey, buddy, he's like, you're a nice kid. Take this and please go to another table. I was like, all right, man, no problem. I get
you learn how to play.
But and here's the thing with camaraderie too. You guys are talking about this. Here's the story of this. This Croatian guy. He asked me what we were, and we're like, oh, we're Canadian. He goes, no, but what are you? Because to them, Canadians like just a collection of other people. So I said, I'm mostly Irish. And, a couple other things. And he goes, oh, Irish, so you're Catholic. And then we were friends. He was like, he didn't like me until then, but now it's great. Because he was talking about this thing. I didn't have the heart to tell him my family was Baptist, but whatever. But that's the thing. He didn't like outsiders. He didn't like the people coming here. He was very proud of his people. But any commonality, no matter how tenuous, you end up having a little event with a guy, whether it's playing craps together like Rolo was saying, or whether it's like sparring together like you said, or just in the military, picking up chicks together in San Diego. We'll pick up the stupidest things like, oh, I had Team Brown. That was my tribe on the ship. A bunch of like generic Mediterranean looking brown guys. And then we were the tribe, and we'll pick anything. And that's why I kind of laugh now where if you're around enough people and people are like, how do you make a tribe? It's like, just pick something. Nobody gives a shit. So yeah,
I have an example of that for you.
Pick Team Longhair. This is the long-haired group. We're fucking in it.
I started watching a show yesterday called Snowflake Mountain. It's on Netflix. It's hilarious.
Is that the opposite of Fuckboy Island?
Tired of their lazy kids, and they sent them away to this camp. And it's basically all they're doing, Ryan, is they're forcing these people who live insular lives, who have never really done anything, and they're forcing them to do simple tasks like climb a tree. Yeah, dig a hole so you can dump your shit in it and bury it. Like really simple, nothing things. These people have never done anything like it. They've never had to push themselves. They've never had to work with other people. And you see them like forming this tribe and this bond because they're doing these. They're nothing tasks, So like you could form a hole digging club. People are going to go out and dig a hole and fill it up. And then that's all you do all day. You drink some beers and you dig a hole. And you'll probably be a lot more happy, less depressed. Your life will probably be a lot better.
It's scientifically proven, research backed, man.
You want to trust the science, you nerds.
Trust science.
I tell you something. Maybe this is just me, but like when like at my age, when I go to like see Slayer or Anthrax or Death Angel or something like that, I know what I'm getting into at this point in my life. Okay. So if I go to a live show, if I go see Lamb of God or something like that, I know that's my tribe, because like those are I love them or hate them. You don't get to choose your family, but like, that you, for better or worse, that's your family. That's your tribe. Right. I went to go see Ghost, I think like right before the lockdown. It was the last show I saw before the lockdown. I'd never seen a Ghost show before. And I really like the music, and I'm there by myself. I didn't have it. I just said, you know what? Fuck it. I'm going to go see this. My wife is never going to want to watch, go see this show. I don't know anybody around who's into it. So I'm like, fuck it. I'm just going to go because I want to see this band. So I go out there. I'm hanging out and I'm like on the floor because it's all here and at the convention center. It's all general, admission. So you go in there and I'm like surrounded by Ghost fans, and like they are some of the more intense, like, fans that you ever. Not intense in the same way as like say Slayer is, but they dress the part, right? Mm-hmm. And I'm there and I'm watching this stuff. I'm dressed for a concert and everything. I know nobody. By the end of that night, I have like a tribe, a group of friends that are hanging out with you because you like the band, they like the band, and that's the tribe, right? And so suddenly you're part of the Ghost family. You're part of the concert family that is right there. And the chicks love you, the guys love you. You hang out, you have a good time, you're singing along, you're doing this thing. Because at the end of the day, they know that you are into this music. So you must have something in common with them. And so therefore you can talk to them and they're like hanging out with you, or like
pre-selection.
Exactly. Or like if you're like
it's a double-edged sword,
like my daughter and my wife, whenever like I say, oh, I'm going to go see Slayer. I'm going to go, well, when they were playing, when I would go see like a thrash band, or like I go see Lamb of God and I see Trivium, and they start the pit, like, and I get in the pit and people are like they think that it's just this like, this scrum, like, like we're basically like beating the shit out of each other.
No,
like,
there's mosh rules, man.
Not like that at all. It's like you fall down, people pick you up. It's because it's just fucking what you do. Like you got to move.
Elbow you in the face, kick you.
Exactly. I mean, is it like can fights break? Yes, they can, because people get lit. But like I can remember, like I went to go see Lamb of God, and it was me and Livy, the singer, and my band. We're down on the floor watching this go on, and CJ and Steve are up on the stands, and we're just like in between bands. We're like, this is great, this is awesome. We're breathing heavy and everything and having fun and shit. And it's like I'm looking at it, we're talking in between shows, and I go, you see everybody out here at this show? CJ said, this is your family, right? And he's like, I don't want that drunk guy in my family. And I'm like, It doesn't matter. You don't get to pick your family. That's the people who are going to come and watch our shows. That's the people who are into this kind of stuff. And if you're into it and they're into it, you're part of that tribe, man. And I
think a lot of guys
I can be a double-edged sword, because I've found things that I liked or enjoyed and then went to the thing, and then I saw the tribe and I was like, I'm out. Yeah,
sometimes, it can be. It's what you make of it. And yes, are there, like I said, you don't get to pick your family. Sometimes your uncle is a drug addicted fuck, but it is what it is.
But you know what? It's like, it's your problem to deal with. It's like, how every time like John will chuck shit at Aaron, or you'll chuck shit at me, or I'll chuck shit at you, or whatever. And then everybody in the chat starts thinking, oh, there's a big rift and the tribe's breaking apart or whatever. It's like, no, man, like this is not going to be super harmonious. I remember Tanner and Guzzy, when they were talking about how come we're talking about our own mental point of origin, we're red-pilled, why can't we get together and get along? I'm like, you cannot make guys into having our own mental point of origin then expect us to get along like chicks. There's going to be conflict, but and I think this is the difference that most younger guys and women can't understand, that just because there's conflict doesn't mean that we're going to be frenemies. We're going to hate each other for it.
Yeah.
Like we're going to look past it. And other people
differently than men do.
Like, yeah, if you and I start bickering like bitches to each other for some reason, John's going to step in and go like, dude, like you guys can have your beef. That's fine. But stop fucking up the group with this. Handle this shit behind the scenes. You know what I mean? There's a certain like, we'll handle this ourselves aspect to it. Yeah. In the military, we used to call it Tiller's Flats. There was that was the space you went to go fight your boss, and you would come back. One of you would have a black eye, and the argument was over.
One of my students, one of my privates that I meet with regularly, he's in his 50s, but he used to be in the military, and we were talking about that. He said, yeah, there would be times where we're stationed somewhere, we're out wherever, and two guys would just disappear and then come back all disheveled and fucked up because they had a disagreement and they went off on their own and handled it.
Yeah.
And he says that when he was in the military, it's like, that's pretty much all you did. It's like you sat around and wait. And then when you're sitting around waiting, you would wrestle and you would fight and you would like find that hierarchy within your group.
Yeah. And
I know.
People keep treating this like it's the worst thing ever. Same thing as like, I'd say the mosh pit is almost like a version of that, a more sophisticated version. Because like you said, there's rules.
Well, because women, they can't take the emotion out of the action.
Yeah. But you know what I mean? Like there's rules to it too. If you have those fights with your boss over something, you're not going to fight cheap. You're not going to try to kill them. You're just getting it out of your system, sorting it out, who's right, who's wrong, whatever. Mosh pit, same thing. The guy falls down, pick him up. We're not trying to stomp the shit out of each other here. We're just have fun with a little bit of violence and sort out some in-group loyalty.
The whole idea around professional fighting. I mean, they boost up this emotional garbage to try to sell tickets, but I think people who are actually real fans of fighting don't care about that.
Yeah, but like Uriga's rules, no fish hooking. Remember, do they still have that? No fish hooking in MMA? But that's the point. Your goal isn't to kill the guy. Your goal is to establish who's the better fighter between you two. And girls don't understand this. Have you guys ever watched like chick fights on World Star or whatever? Do you ever notice how they're way more vicious? Like the girl's down unconscious and she's still getting boot fucked with stilettos.
Still kicking her. Yep.
I have yet to see guy fights don't stop. Almost all the time, they will stop when the guy's out cold on the ground.
Well, there was a study that showed that generally when men got into fights, after the fight, they became friends. Where at a very high percentage, and like almost 100% of the time, when women got into fights, they would never speak to each other again. They were never friends again. like for a fight for men could be the beginning of a new friendship. A fight for a woman is the absolute finish of the relationship.
It makes sense to me. It's like you know where you stand at the end of it, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, you beat the shit out of me. Like, my brother and I don't really. When we were kids, we never really shared much as far as common interests is concerned. A few things, right? But our one common interest was beating the shit out of each other.
Oh, dude.
But we're still. I love my brother. He loves me too, right? I mean, but that's what we do. We were kids. We beat the fuck out of each other.
Yeah, but it was a good thing because honestly, it's like it's a trust thing too. I know everybody's like male safe spaces. Consider this: getting in a fight with a guy. Yeah, there's. From the limbic brain perspective, that's fight or flight. But to be able to trust the guy that we can fight, we can give it our all, but I know I'm walking away from this thing afterwards. That's putting a huge amount of trust in another man. Like, I wouldn't just fight some random... If I'm fighting some random stranger, I'm fighting to survive. But if I'm, like, having fun fucking with my brother and we're fighting, there's a different thing there. I could be more unguarded. I think a lot of guys mistake that.
Another story time. Another funny thing is my brother is like 2 years younger than me. So like he's like a freshman in high school and I'm a junior at that time. Right. And I can remember us going to the same high school and I remember being on like, I think it was a lunchtime thing. I was about to get in a fight. I was about to throw down with this one guy. And of course, when you do that, like it's always the same, like at any high school, even now, even then, as soon as you think like two guys are squabbing, right. They want to like, puff up their chest. And they're about to it looks like they're about to fight. A big old circle of people comes around like fight, like that shit. Right.
Yeah.
And so you're getting in that situation. I'm just about ready to throw down with this guy. And I don't know where the fuck he came from. My brother just out of the blue shoots out of the crowd and just like slams the guy. And I was like, okay, well, that's, now I know, like, when we're fighting, like, it's like, you don't fuck, like, I only get to beat the shit out of this guy, not you. And so he comes in and like, he ended up getting suspended for it, gets the guy in a headlock and starts like wailing on the dude just for like coming at me. I was like, where the fuck did this happen? Like, I wasn't even expecting it too, but that's what I'm talking about. Is like when you have that kind of like, it's one thing to be bullied. It's one thing to be hazed and everything. I get that, but they should anyways have a point to them. Like if you get hazed or you go through some sort of ritual so that you can join the group, like you've probably done this before because you're a Navy guy. When you go across the meridian, like what happens?
Crossing the line?
Crossing the line. What happens? Are you a shellback or are you I don't know, a salty dog? I don't know what the fuck
it's shellback. The bears are the expensive guys. Fuck, I'm drawing a line.
What happens when you clearly did this at one point?
Oh, we actually got shit canned. We had to make our own version of it because the captain was worried it would look bad in the media, so he made it forbidden. So we had to kind of like improvise our own. But you essentially have to kiss.
Though, like when you cross the
yeah, you have to eat this. There's this very specific dish you eat. You're essentially throwing up as you eat it. They put you in a pool. They like baptize you. The oldest guy on board is supposed to be King Neptune. Yeah, it's hazing to the max. And here's the funny thing: when we did cross, we actually crossed the prime meridian and the equator at the same time. So it was like an extra special ceremony because we fitted them both together. But yeah, ours was half-assed. But when we're talking about guys making their own tribes, we essentially had to make our own, which was real. That's the one thing I regret to this day was like, weesh dudes removing that tribalism bit that we had to create for ourselves. So yeah.
And I think a lot of that comes from this upbringing or this education of like, I mean, we always complain about like, the participation trophy generation. That comes from having 77% of your teachers being female, raising you as if you're like, a defective girl. Right. That's where that comes from. These guys who are worried about hazing or bullying or any of this other shit, when it is really just a masculine ritual that they simply can't, like, there's competition amongst men. There's always going to be competition.
Yeah, but if you structure it, it can be productive.
When men organize societies, we organize them hierarchically. And how do we do that? Through competition. Women organize societies in communitarianism or in socialism, right? So it's all, well, we all got to we're all winners. Here's your participation trophy. You know where that comes from? Female thinking. Yeah. Female ways of organizing society creates participation trophy generations. That's why these guys have no earthly idea how to form masculine bonds or have friends in a masculine tribe. That's why we don't form bands. Everybody sits at home and jerks off and sings and goes on American Idol. It's all simply comes back to one thing, is that you've been raised as if you're a defective girl. You're not thinking correctly unless you think in the female correct way of thinking.
Okay, so here's my question to you guys then. So I'm going to tie a bunch of stuff we did at the beginning and at the end. So we just talked about the crossing the line, the building the band, the guys fighting your brother, getting a suspension, like you said right at the beginning, John. Yeah, you can break the rules, but there has to be some kind of consequence there, because if your brother didn't get suspended for jumping anybody who come at you, he'd start jumping a lot more people. But now he has to make that risk analysis. Like, look, I'm going to get suspended for this. Is this important? I would say defending my brother against an ass whooping is probably one of them. So here's my question to you guys. Once you remove that calculated risk from the situation, there's consequence, but you're allowed to make your own decision. What is the consequence of losing that Overton window of masculinity? I can't think of a better word for it, but you know what I'm trying to get at here? My theory is you end up with thugs and simps. Guys that are, like, for your brother as the example, you're going to end up with guys that just jump anybody who looks at your brother cross-eyed. Or you're going to get the guy who simps and let your brother get beat up because you don't want to be, embarrassed by it. I'm curious what you guys think on this.
I like that. I like that terminology, thugs and simps. There's no in between. There's no middle ground.
Yeah, it's our whole process is guiding guys away from those extremes into like a positive.
Well, I was watching the conflict, because that's the only way I can put it. I was looking at the conflict between like Andrew Tate and I don't know if it was Clicks, but maybe it was that CHBC, whatever the fuck his name is. The guy on XQC or whatever, and and Myron was doing a good breakdown of this on Fresh and Fit. But like, I was watching the conflict between Tate and this guy. And one of the hypothetical situation, which we've used a million times in the manosphere, which is like, if there's a intruder in the house, who's going down to face the intruder with a gun or a bat or whatever? Like, is it going to be your girlfriend or is it going to be you? Right. And I tell you that you want to know what the fallout between thugs and simps is. The simps put themselves like virtually vicariously in that situation, like to the point where they are almost like feeling the stress of having to be in that situation, right? So they like kind of like imagine themselves like literally being in that situation. And looking at the reaction when Andrew was saying like, hey, so who's going to go down there and do it? Who's going to go and defend? Is it going to be you or your girlfriend? And of course the guys are like, well, we should both go down together and we're going to be armed. And it's like, literalist, like kind of like, okay, well then it's like modifying the situation. Basically it's meant to say, it's going to be you. The expectation is for you to defend the woman. She's the vulnerable sex. You're the disposable sex. You're going to be the one who goes downstairs with a baseball bat or a knife or gun or whatever it is, right? I don't care what the fucking weapon is. Like, I have a AR-15. And like, nobody cares. It's the principle, and that very principle is what rubs them the wrong way to the point where they're like, I don't know what I'm going to, who's going to be down there? We should both go together. That makes the most logical sense. Well, like, what are you going to do? Draw straws and who's going to go down there? Who's going to be the one to fight? You could change the situation, right? You could change it and say, well, you meet a guy on the street, he grabs your girl's ass and he's about to kick your ass or whatever. Are you going to defend your girlfriend, your wife, right? Putting themselves into like guys who are the simps, who put themselves into a hypothetical like that, it's almost as if they're experiencing the actual event right then and there, because they're like, oh, I don't know what I would do, blah, 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 right? And the that reaction right there says a lot about that generation, in the fact that they don't even want to think about being in that situation. Like such a foreign thought that when you put them into that, they don't know what to do, right? They think, well, you know, if you have time to think, well, the Titanic is sinking, so it's women and children first, right? Or are you going to go, fuck it, I'm getting on the lifeboats and I'm going to leave myself, right? If you have time to think about it, that's one thing. If you don't and it's instantaneous, you'll probably, like men more often than not, will put themselves between bullets and women that they don't even know. We see this all the time in mass shooting events. So like what happens is when you present the simp generation, like the thugs present the simp generation with this hypothetical scenario, like they don't know how to respond. They don't know how to react. In fact, they are like, well, their voices will get all high, like, like that kind of thing. That reaction right there says a lot more about their upbringing and that generation as to like being in those situations that are really visceral, reality-based situations that they might have to actually encounter at some point, but that you clearly see that they've never have to even like consider it in a like a concept in their head before.
Which is funny. I put this one up here. Do you guys remember this guy, the mall shooter?
Dude,
he's the current like good guy with a gun narrative guy.
Unbelievable situation there. He put 8 rounds out of 10 shots into this guy from 40 yards. There was a picture of a mock-up of what he was looking at. Unbelievably impressive what this kid did. And what's even more impressive, not impressive, but shocking and horrific is the reaction. The anti-gun people, their reaction is oh, thank goodness a massacre was stopped. They're mad at the hero. They're mad that he brought a gun into a no-gun free or a gun-free zone. That he was using his Second Amendment rights to carry and defend himself. And they're pissed that he stopped that guy from killing maybe 30 people. They would have rather 30 people die. That's how you judge this gun
generation,
right? The people that think that, oh, it would have been better for 30 people to die so we could ban guns. Like your gun control argument is null and void. The Abe was murdered by somebody who made a gun from stuff he got at the
zip gun
at the Home Depot. Okay, he had a 2-barreled one that he killed the guy with. He had another one that had like 6. I'm sorry. You can easily make guns. You can buy a ghost gunner, like $1,500 lathe to make your own guns. You can get a 3D printer and print your own guns. There is no such thing as gun control anymore. There's no
even
way.
Aside from guns, it's just violence in general. Do you remember that redhead that went on tried to go on the mass shooting in that rub and tug parlor? Came in there with a machete. And then one of the girls wrestled it from him and beat him down. It doesn't matter. It could be a guy with a gun in a movie theater, sure. But it could also be like a guy with a machete at a rub and tug place. It could be just something as simple as being at a party with a bunch of friends and the one guy gets too drunk and starts getting handsy with somebody's girl. Like these situations happen on all different levels. And it's not so much specifically guns. It's like you said, Rolo, how do you handle this? Well, sometimes you don't get, like Nick said, you don't get to think. Sometimes I'm at my house. If somebody's disrespecting somebody's wife in my house, I kind of take them under my care, right? So like, yeah, dude, you got to go. Sometimes it's as easy as just a hand on his shoulders, like, dude, maybe not now. Go sober up later. Sometimes it's, all right, grab the Glock. Let's go to town. But I think when you miss these male camaraderies, these groups, these mentorships, whatever you want to call them, the tribes, is that guys don't build a healthy set of decision-making tools so that when these events come up, they don't know what to do.
They need to take John
boundaries.
Self-defense class is what they need to do.
Dude, you're joking, but you're not.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean?
You do.
Even if it's not going to help you in a fight in the real world, this will help them at a crucial time for decision-making. Even, look, let's just take violence aside. Do I take that new job and move to a different city? There's an element of risk involved in that, right? What are you going to do? Decide it with your wife? Like, Rolo, how many guys have we talked to over the years that had a guy's like, yeah, I got a job at Google. My girlfriend doesn't want me to move, though, so I stayed home with her. She left me 6 months later, and now my career is gone, and I'm working in an auto parts store. I know you've heard that story at least a few times. I have.
Yeah. Well, I think... Well, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to end off with this. Yeah, like, sure, it's not the same thing as fighting, but it kind of is.
Yeah, well, it's decision making. It's like that's the most like when Andrew Tate is coming at the, I don't even know the dude's name, but you know, the guy gets all high pitched and he like, like you want to talk about like when we say we raise our boys as if they're defective girls, they become men who are defective women. He was having an argument with a defective woman. That's what he was having. Like, well, we're gonna do it equally. No, you're not, because the very fact that you think of things in terms of equal partnership or this other shit, the reason why you think that is because you've been raised by women. You've been raised like 77% of your teachers, at the very least, you know, maybe more, were female. And so your outlook on life, your the way that you think is ideally best for us to organize society or meant to be, is to be more like a woman. Right. Meanwhile, women are complaining that they can't, like these bad bitches who have masculinized themselves and turned themselves into the men that they want to marry. They go, where's my husband? Where's my man? Where's the guy that I deserve? Right. Well, that's the fallout. We've also raised women to be defective men. And that's where you're at, right? Because you don't understand that there are biological differences or psychological differences. And men are the disposable sex, men are the sacrificial sex, and women are the vulnerable sex. That's how it works. That's how we evolved. I don't make the rules. I just abide by them. So when I see that conflict between, like, say, Andrew and this kid, right? It's the product of really 60 some odd years of feminizing men and masculinizing women at that point, to the point where the guy thinks that everyone agrees with him. Everybody understands that it should be an equal partnership, and women are this and men are this, and we should all be equals. And the fact is, when reality smacks you in the face, when the guy who is the number 436th best male swimmer becomes the number one female swimmer because he's transgender or whatever, and goes in and dominates that's when reality smacks you in the face and says, no, yeah, I don't care what your psychosis is, what you believe should be true. This is the reality of it, right? When that guy when you have an intruder in the house, that's reality smacking your ideology and your outlook in the fucking face, and you're going to die as a result of the memes and the belief set that you have adopted pretty much your entire life, because you thought that we should all be equals and even Steven and everything. No, you're dead. Dead. That's
not even, I wouldn't even say you have to win. I think this is something people miss too, where they think, well, I'll never be able to beat him. He's better than me at this. He's better than me at that. And like, no.
Your job in self-defense is to make it as difficult. You need to be the hardest target possible.
Yeah, like, deterrent.
Criminals do not want to get caught, and they do not want to get injured. So if you make the fight hard at the beginning, they'll turn and go away from you.
And here's how
you have to take into account. There's a lot of crazy people, though.
Yeah.
And sometimes crazy people are just going to do crazy shit, and you need to.
That's why you don't throw it out flippantly. It's got to be calculated. But so I'm not 6 foot, so I'm not nearly a man, right? Here's the advantage of that.
It's women too, so
I'm trained to use it.
I'm using John. I'm using you as an example here, but it's not a real example. Like, John threatens me, starts to bully me because I can kick your ass. I'm a champion fighter. I'm bigger than you. I'm taller than you. Whatever. I'm probably right, but I guarantee if he's whooping my ass, I can take a bite out of that calf when he's throwing me into a triangle choke. I'll take a chunk out of him. It's like, you may win, but I'm going to make it cost. Yeah. Now, John is less likely to want to fight me for that, because he's like, yeah, I can beat him, but at what cost? And I think most guys miss that the whole point of all of this danger and play.
A long time ago with college wrestlers, because we would go to the frat parties, and the frat boys, they're going to pick on the little guy.
Always those sinewy strength dudes too.
Always a mistake. We're going to pick on the 125 pounder or the 130 pound guy, the meanest fucking guy you'll ever meet. Let's mess with that guy. We're talking about people who, they don't care if they lose the fight. They're going to bite your finger off. They're going to bite a hole in you. They're going
to, and a lot of guys miss that. Like,
they're going to grab the bottle. They're going to grab the glass. They're going to cut you. They do not care. Like, they're smaller. Like, they know that they have to be as dirty as hell to win that fight, and they're going to.
And they'll get that respect from that. So it turns out you don't have, it's not just the top guy wins everything and everybody else loses. It's like, no, you're good enough to be in the game, and that's good enough.
Yeah.
You don't have to be the smartest red pill. Rollo's the smartest red pill guy. He's the most aware. He's got the best body of work here. And that's great. It's not a competition. That's why I always laugh, Rollo, where they always say, like, they call me your henchman or your whipping boy, or like, John is just dick riding you. It's not that. All of us have different levels of, like, from the red pill specifically that we're into, but we're all good enough to be in the same stadium. That's fine. Everybody gets to be, not everybody gets to be the Raiders. Some of us have to be the San Francisco 49ers,
and I'd say what's you aren't wrong about that. Now you know I'm a Raiders fan. I saw this. By the way, I'm gonna, for people who don't know, I'll be in Miami next week. I'm gonna go on Valuetainment once again. I'll be on with Jedediah Bila live, and I'll also be on with Adam Sosnick going up against Ruslan for some sort of debate. I don't know what the hell is, whatever's going to pass for a debate. And anyways, one of the things I think I'll probably get into with Jedediah is like, she's of course, Tate is the biggest thing. Like, Tate owns YouTube right now, right? Like, for better or worse. And she was coming at Tate because he's the easiest, most visible target right now. Everybody wants to put like Andrew Tate in the title of their video so that they can get some cheap engagement, right? Well, she was coming at him for saying that like women should not learn self-defense, right? Because most women will get, like the majority of women will just simply get themselves into trouble because it gives them a false sense of security, and then they mouth off and they get all up in people's grill, and they think either they know how to take care of themselves or 10 guys surrounding them will take care of business for her. And so he was talking about this, and she's losing her mind, right? Oh no, you should learn how to shoot a gun. You should learn how to self-defense, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, that's kind of not what he's saying. I mean, he overblows it. I think if anything, like Tate kind of exaggerates things to the point where people will take his exaggerations literally. But when you go and you look at these montages of videos of men and women in sports situations where like it could be a combat sport, it could be football, it could be like even just track and field. Like I was looking at these baton races and stuff that was part of this montage. Or you look at tennis players, like Serena Williams could not go up against the top male player in tennis, and she says as much too, and people lost their minds because of that. And so what you're looking at is this mass psychosis of people who think that men and women are equal and they have the exact same physical potential as the other one, when in fact the guy probably has a good like 100 pounds of body weight on pretty much the average woman. The average guy probably has at least 100 pounds, maybe 50 to 100 pounds more body weight than she does. If that guy's determined to kick your ass, he's going to mow right over you, because it's not about like skill at that point. It's about like who's crazy, who's drunk, and who's got the body mass.
I can't tell you the number of times I've seen women, world champion women, get ragdolled, handled by guys who are like white belts, who are the same size. Mm-hmm. Guys with little to no experience. And they just they're not strong enough. They don't have the cardio. Mm-hmm. And I've seen like accountants who've taken jiu-jitsu for 6 months destroy girls who have been training for years. I've seen it repetitively. Yeah, okay. Some girls are going to do great and they're going to do fine in certain situations. But like, I love it. I've seen more the other way.
What kills me is this, and I was just watching this. There's a show on Apple Plus or something like that. It's called Tehran, and it's about this secret agent. It's a great show, by the way. It's like this like Mossad agents in Iran are trying to like assassinate the prime minister, or the great glorious leader, right? And the main character is basically La Femme Nikita. Right, it's the assassin, the hacker spy that is infiltrated the enemy country, and she's on the run, and they know where she's at.
Bridget Fonda in the movie, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's actually not a bad show until she's kicking the asses of guys who are like 3 times the body weight of this. And I'm looking at, there's no way that one kick, to the chops or something like that is going to put a guy this size down, right? And I think it just knocks the guy out. But you see that enough in Hollywood, you see that enough in any of these shows, and women go, yeah, I'm going to learn how to do that because women can knock out a guy just as much as men can knock out a guy. And it's bullshit. Absolutely.
It can't happen though. I have because three examples. There was a UFC champion girl that trained at AKA Randall May, and she'd knock out at least 3 guys with kicks. Women can kick hard. They have strong hips, and 100
birth and hips.
145-pound girl kicking a 145-pound guy in the head is enough to possibly knock out. But she was.
But if the guy
elite, she was a world champion multiple times. She was a UFC champion.
The exception that proves the rule.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think
the guys were like amateur.
Wasn't it? Somebody was saying, like, I forget who was saying, like, they were saying Ronda Rousey would like beat up like Mayweather or something like that at one point. I remember that. I was like,
no, I think Rogan or somebody said it.
What?
It was something ridiculous. Yeah, it was really ridiculous.
Oh, but he was probably high at the time.
Was a big psyop, man. That was like them making a big turn towards pro wrestling.
Yeah.
Really.
Which is
Like,
too bad.
I think every champion after like 2008, 2010 gets an asterisk because they made such a hard turn towards pro wrestling. It became about just entertainment and had nothing to do with actual sport and ability. They only wanted to sell. It's just, that's it. We just need excitement and sell. It has nothing to do with the actual being good.
Yeah. Which makes me laugh then is because, have you guys heard of the content creator clash? iDubbbz, remember
boxing,
the YouTube guy whose girlfriend
he brought
was
that
on
up.
OnlyFans? Started a boxing match, all marketing. It's all the YouTubers you remember from 2014. I think if they stick with just marketing over like the finesse of sport and mixed martial artists, I think things like YouTube creator clash are going to beat it out. Like your Logan Paul.
I'll tell you what's funny is like I
Well,
remember
like bare knuckle and that stuff popping up too.
Yeah.
It's
Speaking of which, if you haven't watched it yet, John, I'll cut you off a sec, Rolo. You should watch that and do a breakdown of it because some of the boxing matches weren't half bad. Like the Epic Mealtime guy, he fucking killed the dude. Anyways, yeah, sorry, Rolo, I cut you off.
I was gonna say is like you're right about it. I mean, it's YouTube blood sports. It's the escalation of YouTube blood sports is what it is. And like you got these guys who like this time last year, or just about this time last year, there was all the shit that went down between Abba and Preach and Fresh and Fit. Right now, what's funny was Fresh was talking about, I'm gonna go in the ring. I'm gonna beat up like Preach or something like that. Right. Now, all that was, we figured out that unsorted itself, up to this point, right? But you know what anybody still talks about? They'll go, Hook'em, when is Fresh gonna fight? And like a year later, it's like water in the bridge. A long time ago, they're still talking about when is Fresh gonna, back up what he was saying. He's gonna go into the ring with Preach, right? I'm like, that's all they heard. That's all they cared about. I want fight, like a high school,
the circle of guys, yeah.
bread and circles, man. Bread and circles.
They're promised a fight. There's no fucking fight. Like that's.
Well, how many fights in the Manosphere have been canceled already? Remember when Ivan was supposed to fight Tate and they were going to sell tickets? Rule Zero Dad, Fresh threatened Rule Zero Dad, a 43-year-old fucking lawyer with a boxing match. It's like an anonymous guy on the internet. He's like, "What the fuck is wrong with you, dude?" But I guess kids just want what kids want. They want the school bullies.
If you issue a challenge like that, you better be ready to go. Like, was it Logan Paul was going at like Mayweather or some shit like that? Like that was it's all bullshit.
That was funny as remember that where he fucking clocked him, but he accidentally hit him too hard, so he had to like hold him up so he didn't fall too quick. Here, man, wake up, quick.
And I wanted to run this by Fitch at some point. How cool would it be as if like you went to like, I don't know, you relocate to Nashville or you relocate to like Florida or something like that. You set up a studio, like a podcast studio, but in the studio, you get a big enough like room or big enough building where you can set up like an octagon or you can set up like this fighting ring. So it's like, okay, so if you have a beef against this guy, you come here, I'll fly you in here, we'll videotape it, and you can actually go.
I think that's
here's the ring, come on down.
That's definitely a thing that a promoter could put together. Mm-hmm. The whole scheme would be like beefs. You guys have beefs. Yeah,
they would die. You're right. At Blackfield W, they would die.
And then anybody who, if you got a couple guys from some city somewhere and they can bring in enough people. But I've seen the grudge matches. That's happened on some smaller shows in certain towns because you got local fighters and they never really leave that local scene. I've seen those. Jerry from accounting is fighting Ned.
It should happen. We need
the old tough guys. That's where Butterball got his start, wasn't it?
Yeah, Butterbean.
Or Butterbean, thank you. Yeah.
Eric, he's a great dude. He's a real nice guy.
Super nice. Well, I think you can be a nice guy if you can punch like that. You got nothing to have a chip on your shoulder for.
Shook his hand and it was as thick as it was wide.
Crazy.
Jesus Christ.
That's good. All right, so we're winding down. We're almost at the 2-hour mark. So we're going to do 9 minutes, chucking a little bit of shit. But Rolo, honestly, you've been sick as a dog. You've been gone. I haven't caught up on anything. I don't even know what you're up to right now.
Yeah. Well, here's the deal. I actually came down with the beer bug about 2 weeks ago, like right around 4th of July. And I'm fine right now. Thank you very much. Let's see, what am I doing? Oh, by the way, the Audible book is now available in case people don't know already. I made a big old announcement about it. I'm trying to like pump it out there because that's the number one thing people were asking me. When is the Audible coming out for book 5? It's out now. You can go get it. It's on Audible. And if you live in a foreign country, if like India or Pakistan or whatever else, and you don't see it available, give it a week. It takes a while for international to catch up. Okay. Sorry. That's not my call. So, but it will be available at some point in your country as well. So that's number one. Number two is, let's see, what was that? Oh, I guess the last time I was on Rule Zero was like probably in June, now that I think about it. And not because I'm like trying to get away or anything like that. It's just like, that's just like my life right now is like, I live in freaking hotel rooms these days. I'm here for like 2 weeks or 3 weeks and then somebody else calls me away. So, I am going to once again be in Miami, actually in Fort Lauderdale. I'm going to be on Valuetainment. I'm going to be talking with Jedediah Bila, and then I'm also going to be on Adam Sosnick's show on this coming Thursday with Ruslan, and so we made that happen. Ruslan, if you don't know who he is, I don't want to belittle Ruslan because I don't want to go in there hot, but like he's a very much a sort of evangelical. I think he used to be a white boy Christian rapper kind of thing. And then decided he wanted to be a YouTube influencer or wanted to be a YouTube personality. And he's sort of been coming at me and Fresh and Fit and all the usual suspects because he's been friends with like guys like Hafiz from the Roommates. And I know he's tight with Jordan Peterson. And he's also, I think he knows Patrick Bet-David too. So he wanted to, I'm going to debate you. I'm like, well, it won't be a debate, but I'm happy to go sit on the stage there and talk to you because the guy is basically arguing from a position of ignorance. So if I can help educate him, I will. So I'm going to be doing that on Thursday. That should be a pretty hot show, by the way. And again, it's going to be a live cast, so you guys can participate in the chat. I don't know if Jedediah's show is pre-record or if it's a live cast. I want to say it's live. So I'll probably then that will be Wednesday of this week. So Wednesday, Jedediah. Thursday, I'll be on with Sosnick. Friday, I'll be on with Fresh and Fit while I'm out there. And then I fly back Saturday because I don't want to stay any longer than I have to right now because I have been in Miami once a month since December of last year. So, and then I'm coming back. I got my show is tomorrow, by the way, 1 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. Eastern. I might have Justin Waller in studio, or I might go do something with him. He's coming up to Reno. He was in Vegas. He wanted to come up and hang out with me. So he's flying in probably in another hour or so here. So I'll be hanging out with Justin for a little bit. And so if I do something, if I might have him in studio, if he can hang out. If not, then I'll just be doing my regular show tomorrow. And then I am trying to get to my midweek shows on Wednesdays, but this Wednesday and Thursday, I won't be doing my midweek because I will be on with Jedediah. You can go, that's your midweek show. Go watch her show and build her brand for it. I am, by the way, I am no longer doing collabs with people who don't do live shows. If you're doing a recorded show, don't even ask me. If you're doing a live stream, I will probably do it, but I am no longer doing recorded shows.
What's up with that?
Well, the reason for that is because they never fucking get published. They get, seriously. And I like the girl, like Leah Halpert, and she's one of many, by the way. Now I'm just bringing her up right now. But I did a show with her on the 25th of June or something. It's supposed to come out on Monday or whatever. And I don't care if it does or any. Like the moment's passed. Like why am I going out there doing this if you're not going to follow up on this shit? So I am I was thinking about this while I was in Rapid City with Aaron, and I'm like, you know what? I'm not doing any more pre-records. If somebody wants to do a show with me and they want to do it live, okay, no problem. I'll accept your show, but I am no longer doing pre-records because I never know when they're coming out. And even like, I want to pick on just Leia. It's like even Robert Kiyosaki. I've done like something like a dozen shows with Robert. Like I think maybe 1 or 2 of them have been published, and I'm like, that's just bad business. That's just, and I hate to say it, but that's just simply bad business. And you're wasting my time, you're wasting your time, and unless it's a live situation, I'm really don't ask me to do a pre-record.
It's good. I actually kind of like how you're finally like treating your time more valuable.
I value. Well, I'm
20 years telling men to be men. You fucking earned it, man.
Well, I'm 54 years old, so I value my time more than I value your money.
I'm getting too old for this shit.
Yes.
All right, Johnny, give us a little catching up here.
Well, I came out with my Fitch Smash Strength program recently. I've got that up here. Let me put a little link for you guys. But
we'll throw it in the private. I'll make sure it's in the description.
Yeah, I created this way of lifting as a martial artist. I needed something better than the traditional systems, so I came up with my own system to be the greatest fighter I could possibly be. But I've been retired for a couple of years. I still use the same program, and I get a lot of good results from minimum work and effort. The other thing that I need you guys to do is I'm gonna put another link here, but I need you to guys buy a t-shirt. All right, you can get one of these bad boys, free Cain shirt. If you're not aware of what happened, Cain, UFC heavyweight champ, one of the greatest heavyweights ever, has son, some little creep touched his wee-wee, and Cain went after him and tried to kill him. Cain's in jail right now. The pedophile is free. He was free to go and go back to his mother's house where he lived, where the daycare was at. So the judge allowed a pedophile to go back home to be around children. And Cain took matters into his own hands. I wish he would not have used the gun and actually killed the guy with his bare hands. But let's all support his family as much as we can in this time, and buy a shirt, man. Support him, and show that we're not going to allow these people to hurt our children anymore. There's so many of this grooming crap going around. The DAs are so soft on pedophiles. You hurt a child, you get no rights ever. I think that's immediate death. You should be taken out and publicly executed. You hurt a kid, fucking kill you, dead. Sorry. Just the way it should be.
No, it's good. Okay.
No excuse.
Guys, links are in the description for this, by the way. So if you're watching this after the fact, check it out. Definitely do some support. Honestly, I can't think of a better way to support a guy than like he's protecting his family. At the very least, you send a message where like, we got your back. So yeah, go pick up a shirt.
He did what everybody says they would do.
I guess that was the problem. Instead of talking tough, actually acting. Typical feminine imperative stuff, right?
Yeah. Okay,
so for me, I'll try to end it on a more of a positive note for mine because I didn't have anything that serious. I've done a bunch of collabs with people you wouldn't expect. Wednesday Ultra. I've got links to all these in the thing, by the way. Wednesday Ultra with Zertis. It was kind of neat. I learned who he was through Adam Krigler when we started doing his Monday show. So they taught me about the Tartars, a whole bunch of conspiracy theories. Turns out Canada's got some dark history in their past. It's definitely interesting, and it's something different. Everybody who went down there said they loved it, so go check it out. A bunch of cool creators. And Rolo, I actually met a guy. He's the Venice Beach. What's his band's name? Venice Beach something or other. And I'm like, I'm going to try and find a link. I'll send it to you one of these days. You might like it.
Cool.
And if you guys end up in the same area, it might be a cool thing to collab, talk about gear and music. But we'll see if that happens. And then Who's Your Daddy? Ali had the Real Femme Sapien, had Clary and me on, trying to save the women, and we did our best. It was a little bit cruder than they're used to, but honestly, she's doing good work. She's really trying to help women and not just do what's that Marty Hasselbeck and the guys do, where they just pander to chicks to take their money. So, support out there to somebody at least trying to be part of the solution, and that's all I got for you guys. Beyond that, the way Rolo wants to just have a weekend to himself, I've decided that's going to be my summer. This is a job, and I am not working myself to death. I'd have stayed in corporate if that was the case. I'd make way more money.
Yeah, I want to clarify that too. It's like I haven't been on Rule Zero, not because I haven't want to. It's just like I've been like busting my ass all this time for the last few months. So
yeah, but anyways, I got nothing else, so I guess I'll end the show. Oh wait, no.
Nope.
This one's for you. Oh, did I start with this? Oh, I started with this, but I'm gonna end with it too. It's for you, Rolo.
Boom, what's up, fam? Got some big news to share that unfortunately is not so good, so I'm gonna jump right into it. You're gonna watch this video and you're gonna cry. At least we can laugh at your eyes as you cry, looking in the corner like a little girl in the fetal position.